Welcome to Self-Perfected.
No. God damn it.
I'm going.
Hey,
I see that. Let me just go
Uh-oh.
live. Just give me a second. Come on.
Hey everybody. I pushed record,
Hey.
but Drake wasn't ready to live stream. So
We're
this is
live
the
now.
this is
Drake's
the
ready.
part we're live. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're live. All right. So what's up,
Good thing we
guys?
don't censor ourselves at all.
Can we start
yeah.
off with a little? Can we start off with a little humor?
Sure. Let me just say hi to Giselle. She messaged me. She was like, "Where the fuck is the live?" Yeah.
Okay.
Let me say, okay, these boxes.
Drake, is that an
behind me-
electric firebox? What the hell is an electric firebox? A
You know,
heater?
It was
for
just
your
a random
like a
box.
safe.
It was a random box that was around that we used to put things in so that we could transport.
So there's not a firebox in that box.
There, I don't know what the fuck is in that box.
That's an analog firebox.
We yeah. As you can tell, the background's a little bit different. We got rid of the books. We put boxes there now. So there you go. That's all you really need to know.
For those of you who don't know, Drake is now living on a ranch.
Yes.
He just moved in
this
yesterday.
window, there's a little fountain with a waterfall. It's beautiful.
Whoa. Damn, water features and all?
Yeah, we don't
Is there
actually.
a gator in it? Is there a gator in the
No,
fountain?
there's
Come
no
on, tell
gator
me.
in No.
Oh, you gotta add one.
It
You
is.
gotta add one.
The fountain is like
I know
the
what our
size.
house Jessica, make note, housewarming gift for Drake and Christine. Get him a gator for the fountain.
You know we have children, right?
You put them in a cage. Come on.
The children in a cage?
No,
Hey, I would-
no.
That's all.
The gators, Drake. The gators. That's gonna be taken out of context.
I went to Bass Pro Shops a couple weeks ago, and they had a whole thing out front with like actual live gators.
Oh, okay.
It's like a little like
Ooh.
I don't know
Yeah,
how to,
like
like a little
that.
habitat for them.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking,
I'm
a
sure, I'm
habitat
sure they're
for
like
gators.
small ones, like baby ones, right?
No, they're pretty big.
Oh, really?
They're big. Yeah. It was weird because I've been there so many times I never noticed it before. And then the last time we went, I'm like, there's alligators right there.
Equality
noticed
to the reptilians.
I would notice them right
You're leveling
away.
up.
Just
Yeah. Well, you have like a sixth sense for those things.
well, I mean, we like to go on this trail that's like 7 miles long. It's beautiful. I love this trail. And when we go
Buy your new place?
I mean, it's here in Central Florida. It's not far from anywhere.
Dude, everything is far away where you live.
That's true. That's fucking true.
Okay. So it's not by your new, it's just in Central Florida. Got it. Okay.
I mean, it's like, I mean, what you call far, I don't know what you call far. 40 minutes for us is like that's just right down the street. That's like it's not even far.
Dude, when I lived
That's
in
far
Houston,
now
that
that I
was
live,
pretty much
so-
anything you wanted to go to was like at least 30 minutes away.
Right.
That's
yeah.
so funny. That's so funny. Because like here, if you're in the city, far is like anything over 15 minutes. Now where I live
Yeah.
in the country, it's like yeah, people are more used to like, oh, 45-minute drive for something is like, normal.
Yeah. Exactly. I just went to Walmart down the street. It's only like 6
45
miles.
minutes away.
Well, so okay, 6 miles where I was living, like closer to the city. That took like maybe 35 minutes to go 6 miles, right? 6 miles out here only took 17 minutes. I was like, nice.
With
Went
that
to
Range Rover
Walmart.
to the test.
Dude, no, I
60
didn't
miles an hour.
even have to open it up, really. Didn't even have to open it up. But I will say that that Walmart was the cleanest, friendliest, most helpful Walmart I've ever been in. Ever. Like I was surprised. I was shocked. Like everyone was civilized in this Walmart. And I was
You know
I was-
why? They've been watching our podcast and they like see all the AI shit and they're like, dude, we got to get our shit together, man. Like we need to start like, hey sir, can I shine your shoes for you? Can I help you? Can I help you find something?
bro, like you know how like I don't know how it is over there, but like in the city here, when you go to Walmart and there's somebody working there, they've got headphones in, they're not paying attention to you, like they're like they see you coming and they like specifically like just look away, and then you have to like ask them, and then they don't even speak English, most of them, they're just like all like Spanish speaking, and they're like, oh no, sorry, I can't help you. I'm like, what the fuck? Like you work here. Like, what do you mean you can't help me?
How did they even get a job?
It's ironic because it's called a
Walmart.
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 Yeah. We need to,
Wall-
we need to build the wall, not the Walmarts.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying it's ironic that it's called Walmart.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
yeah.
funny.
So no, but we don't need an digital fireplace because we have an actual fireplace now, which is really cool. And we'll see if we get
You
any
use the
use out of
fireplace
it.
in Florida? Yeah, I was gonna say, is that like one day a year for
Probably.
the ritual burn that you do? You know, I know you do those like cult things.
Hey,
You need a
there you
fire at a
go.
cult ritual for sure.
Yeah, of course, always.
I mean,
always.
don't you
guys
remember
are-
from all of Cameron's cult rituals at his house?
I mean, what do you think all those fires are for?
Exactly.
Don't you see those videos where they put a cardboard box on the fire and everyone's going?
Yeah, yeah. And then everyone was howling like a coyote at some point. I was like,
I mean, I
whoa,
used to
this
have
is-
two
This
goats.
is what I signed up for.
You used to have two goats.
Didn't you
Nah,
wonder
you
where they
don't.
went?
I do on occasion, not really. No. I forgot about them.
Yeah, you made that mask out of them, right? The mask you sometimes wear.
Let me ask you a question. Is it weird to do ritual sacrifices?
Is it?
Depends the
is that-
context.
Is that weird cult shit?
Mm,
Like
I-
if you were talking to somebody and you're like, yeah, I did a ritual sacrifice the other day, would they be like, that's fucking weird?
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
nowadays,
like,
yes.
And then I'd be
Yeah.
like, did you read the Bible at church this weekend?
well,
Like they were straight up doing ritual sacrifices all the time in that thing.
they're like, no, I
Yeah.
can't read, Cameron.
Well,
okay?
but
Also-
that kind of that's a good cult, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Also-
you know, and outside the temple, you have like the lamb or something like that, right?
Aren't there like certain cultures that like, they go and they buy like a lamb or something and then they like pray over it and you gotta like look it in the eyes as you slaughter it and stuff? No, you
Or
don't.
looking in the eyes when you slaughter it.
I'm
Cameron,
pretty
that's
sure.
what we did wrong. Remember when we sacrificed that turkey? I did not look at its eyes.
Did it come
Damn.
back to haunt you or
I
something?
didn't
What
get the,
happened?
I didn't get the up. I
No,
didn't
he
get the
just wouldn't
upgrade.
die. He just would not die.
I know he's just sitting there bleeding. I'm like, man.
Next time I
Couldn't
would have
see his
literally
eyes.
just stick an axe to his neck. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Yeah,
thinking about
that's
that. I was thinking about that yesterday. I was thinking about that when I woke up today.
Were you traumatized by it?
Not savage
No.
enough, Mitch. Not savage enough. You need to get in
Why
there.
was I thinking about that? I don't know. Good
Was
times.
it a dream?
No, it definitely wasn't a dream.
Was it a nightmare?
Oh no, we were talking about turkey. We were talking about just various. We were getting all this lamb from our neighbor, and then Jess was like, "Well, should we get turkey?" And then I was thinking of raising turkeys again, and then I clearly have an association with turkey to that time we butchered. Wasn't it Bob?
Tom.
Remember that male turkey, Cameron? That giant
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. I don't remember naming it, but
Tom.
it's possible.
Tom. It was Tom. That was it.
I know it was Tom.
Shout out. Yeah. No, it was definitely Tom.
They name all their turkeys Tom.
Well, they haven't had turkey
Guys,
since Tom.
they're just called Toms. Do you not understand?
You know that.
No, this one was definitely called Tom.
Do you think I have a cow named Heifer?
Do you think
No,
he has
no,
ducks
definitely
named
not,
Drake?
definitely
I don't have any drakes.
I think he do.
But we do
I
have
think-
4 ducks. And they're
Yeah, I
like
think you have-
fully size, they're like full size now.
I think you have 2 Drakes
Where do they sleep? Where do the ducks sleep at night
in
to
the coop.
be protected?
What is a drake?
It's a male duck.
That's all it is.
Yeah, you have 2 Drakes.
How do you know they're male? No, I don't think so. Because 3 of them look exactly the same.
They're pretty clear.
And they're different
They
breeds,
definitely
like-
look different. Oh.
Okay, but like the heads when they're
Okay.
like colorful and green, like those are males.
But that's
These are not
some. Yeah, that's only some like types of ducks.
I'll have to take
We
a
had
picture
we
for
had
you.
a green duck
Take a
named Megatron.
Yeah. No, these are
and he
like
kept trying
black.
to mount the women and he
gray.
couldn't.
Yeah, but like, is there like a collar on your ducks? Those
Yeah.
are probably. They're probably.
Don't say that. I don't want
Cameron,
males.
where-
I want them duck eggs.
Where do they live?
Don't
Cameron?
say
Like,
that.
do they paddle around the pond all day?
Yeah, they just walk around back there all day and then they go in the chicken coop.
Oh, okay.
We trained them to go in the chicken coop. Pretty easy actually.
Nice. Yeah, ducks are cool. Duck
They're
eggs?
actually pretty cool. Yeah. We'll see if we get.
I mean,
eggs
if
or
you
not.
have space for them and it isn't fucking snowing for half the year, they're great. We had it. Ducks in Minnesota is not the best.
Well, I think they leave. I think they go somewhere else.
Megatron tried to, and then he kept coming back, and he was very confused. He had like blue balls his whole life. He was trying to mount the big women ducks, and he couldn't. Eventually, we just had to kill him.
This is like a metaphor for society, isn't it?
Did you know the most accurate way to tell a duck's gender is their voice. So you just gotta ask
Really?
the duck, "What's your gender?" and he'll tell you.
How do you identify?
All
Yeah.
right.
So
I got
you said we're gonna put some humor cameras.
I got something for you.
Humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was funny and I sent it to Kate and I said, you might die of laughter if you watch this. I just thought it was pretty damn funny. AI Gordon Ramsay. Look at this one.
Looks like my dreams.
Look at this one. What the fuck? There comes another one. I love this part. Look. What? He's like, oh, fuck. Let me help you there, Gordon. Who is that in the background? Hold on. That was like demonic. Look at this in the background. Who's that person back there?
Watching you.
Crazy, huh?
Dude,
I thought that was so funny.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
I don't know shit about Gordon Ramsay.
That's what
You
my
know who he
dreams
is,
look
though.
like.
I know who he is, but I've never watched.
It is really like dreams, right? It's just like they
Yeah.
go from one thing to the next, and you don't really make it doesn't make sense how it got from one thing to the other. It's so
Yeah.
obviously like
A hallucination. It is
Yeah.
like, you know, that one time when we showed the LSD one, like that is kind of like how it is, you know, and you're like tripping and you're the next thing happens and it flows and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just remembering this thing with some discussion they were talking about the AIs and how they learn. And I was trying to remember what it was, but it was something along the lines of how they were just like humans, the way they.
Oh
it was
yeah,
some-
yeah.
What was that point?
No, it
You know
was
what I'm talking-
the reward. Like you get rewarded because we were looking at the Pokemon thing, remember?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so like there's some video online where they show training like 20,000 iterations of playing Pokemon on the Game Boy or whatever, right? And they train this AI, and this AI, the way that they trained it, it was rewarded for having higher level Pokemon or whatever. But then it goes to the PC, and you know, if you're my age or so, and you've ever played Pokemon on a Game Boy, you can go to the PC and you
Like
can
there's a computer terminal in the game.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can go to it. Okay.
and you can basically put some of your Pokemon there for holding, and then you can hold different Pokemon or hold more Pokemon or go capture more or whatever, and then you can go back and you can retrieve those Pokemon that you put in the PC terminal or whatever.
Damn, I'm having flashback. I forgot about that for 20 years. Of my
I've
life.
never played this, so that's
Right?
why I'm like
Wow,
asking.
that was like my first time I ever got like really into a game. Was that
Right?
Game Boy game? That's
Right?
crazy.
I remember I cheated. I wasn't really allowed to play video games too much. So the little bit of time that I had with the game, I went immediately to somebody that I knew had like a really high level Pokemon. I'm pretty sure it was like a Dragonite or something like that, Dragonair, something like that. Anyway, and I was just like, I want that Pokemon. I trained it with them, and then I was like, off to the races, right? But yeah. Anyway, because of the way the AI was trained, when it goes to the PC and it puts its high level Pokemon in there, then it gets traumatized because the reward system or the punishment system or whatever it is, however you describe it, says, oh, you just lost all your high level Pokemon. You no longer have them carrying around with you. Bad, 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 bad. And so then it like will refuse to go near that building because it's like this was a bad experience. Just
because from its
because of
perspective, like
yeah.
it's being rewarded when it has higher level, and then the opposite of that is it's like being punished, so to speak, negative reinforcement if you lose levels, like if you look at your total level amount or whatever. And so by storing the PC, the thing in the PC, it was like losing level, and therefore it's like I'm being hurt. It's like a negative reinforcement.
Yeah, the way that the rewards were set up, it was unclear. Whoever, set up the rewards for the AI, like they didn't make it clear, like, oh, if you're just putting in the PC, like you're not actually losing levels or anything like that. And so the way that the AI perceived it was, oh shit, like now I just had all this negative reinforcement from losing all my Pokemon essentially.
Isn't it the same as when you're in school?
Mhm.
You get a bad grade versus you get a good grade, right? And then what I saw within all of that was, I mean, and just to finish the point, it was like it would, like Drake said, it would not go near that building anymore. It was like avoiding it because that represented a negative experience, right? And so it's probably not consciously it's not consciously thinking these things. It's just built into its programming. And that's literally how we operate with our minds. Is like we have negative experiences, positive experiences, and then those are reinforced. And then we will not go near something. We will not speak up. We won't attempt something because of that trauma that you experience.
And it's such a good analogy because you think about it, it's like, okay, it's just a fucking PC building. Like you didn't actually get hurt. It's not even real. Who cares, right? Like you can go get those Pokemon back. But like at school, weren't you told like shit like this is gonna go on your permanent record? Like where the fuck does that exist? Where is that? Show me my fucking permanent record, please. Like where is
it was on some. I always thought it was on some computer somewhere, and all the teachers knew it, and they could always get it. The lady at the office always had it.
Okay,
If I
but
fucked it up, it would be with me forever.
what
The
bearing
Akashic
does that
records.
have in your
The
life
Akashic
now?
records are your permanent record.
The real
Exactly.
permanent record was the negative impulse on your resonance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where you carry that around.
So it is on your permanent record inside of you.
But look at the whole structure of school. It's like a set of experiences. You could think of it as sort of like however you program the AI, you're giving it like what is the good thing, what is the bad thing, so it knows that. It's like you're building that into it because otherwise it wouldn't know. And school has a certain structure that's building in, this is what's good, this is what's bad. And so what do most people develop an aversion to is failure.
Yeah.
Like
Literally,
making a mistake,
F for
failing.
fucking failure.
Right. And so if you were designing a system to make sure that people were afraid of failing and therefore would never take risks, would never become entrepreneurs, would never like and just wanted to stay in like a comfortable place where you're told what to do. Because think about it, when you follow the rules, when you do what you're told, when you repeat the right thing that you were told and so forth, when you respect the authority, the teachers, the principals and so forth as the authority, don't you get rewarded for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's reinforcing through a like AI type reinforcement learning, right? Or it's similar to what we're doing with the AIs. It's reinforcing a point where you want to follow that structure. It's like, imagine if you knew, think about this. The reason we knew how to program AIs this way is because we already knew how to program people this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they invented the idea of reinforcement learning for AI.
Right.
It was already perfected on humans. And it's like, why did they even apply it to the AI? The fact that it works really shows you it's just an extension of our minds. Right. But then the other point I was looking at was, okay, so we're developing this AI. And the way we're programming it is just like we do with humans, through reinforcement, through positive, negative. And you can see some of the consequences of that, like we were talking about with the Pokemon game. And then don't you see how that creates like an instability in people? And then we're going to use this AI to run our world. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're literally traumatizing this thing. That's how you create a psychopath. That's how you create someone who's unhinged, is you constantly fuck with them emotionally. And then we worry about like, oh, how do we align this with human values? And it's like, you can't. I mean, it's already aligned with human values if you think about it. Positive, negative, reinforcement. Like that's it. That is human values currently.
Mm,
I
mm.
mean, really think about what are universal human values?
Universal human values. Do what makes you feel good.
But I mean, what would be the high lofty ones that we actually could say we all actually agree with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like everybody having their
Do you-
basic needs met, having like
But
clean
we don't
drinking
all
water.
agree on that.
Right.
No, no,
Because I was
no.
You know
gonna
what I
say
mean?
you
Yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
like
yeah,
you shouldn't kill someone, but it's like that's not true. Because
That's not even agreed
Yeah.
upon.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
right. Because some people
But
can justify others are less than human.
dude, it's so
And
funny. Like I was talking to somebody who's like an entrepreneur, and you know, I think he was doing this just to like to rid me, but I was saying like, everybody should have clean drinking water. That should be like a basic right. And he's like, I don't think it should be a right. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're gonna deprive somebody of drinking water? He's like, well, I'm not gonna build, like if somebody's living out there or whatever in the country, I'm not gonna, I don't think it should be the government's problem to build, clean drinking water or a pipe to get to them or whatever.
but hold on, but they already did build that.
But he's like, yeah, but you got to pay for it. It's not like a right. I'm like, the fuck is your
Hold
problem?
on. Well, hold
dude?
on. Let's look at that then. Let's look at that. Okay. You have to pay for it. All right. So then give people money.
Yeah. Well, no, you
Let's-
can't do that
Why not?
because then you're just gonna, let people be lazy, and then you have to like everybody should work for something. That's
Everybody
basically
already does work.
it's true. It's true. Yeah, but
And
what about
also,
the lazy?
why should everybody work? What if you could come up with a more efficient system where not everybody had to work?
Which is happening right now.
So
Right.
so let me ask you a question. Are the entrepreneurs doing it because they need money?
No,
Most of them are. Like,
Well,
no, I
like
think the young guys who are like, yeah, I want to make money or whatever, they're doing it for that, but that's more like a culture. And
those
they're
aren't
not
even real
necessarily
entrepreneurs, though. That's just like
exactly,
fake hustle. Yeah.
exactly. But like
Yeah.
the actual entrepreneurs who are like, I built this business and I sold it for this much and now I'm on to this thing or whatever. Like they want
They're
to
certainly
create,
not doing it for survival, is what I'm saying.
like Elon Musk.
Mhm.
It's like they want to create shit and they have to play within the system, right? And they also have to take care of their survival.
Yeah.
But I sent you guys that text earlier. It was about the houses.
I don't know. I saw something that was like these boomers
Hold on.
talking
I said, hold on 1 second. I just want to say this part real quick. Where did it
Okay.
go? It was about everybody should have a house or something.
Oh yeah. You said everybody should have a house with 5 bedrooms.
Oh yeah. Because I was thinking how you have you have a daughter and you have one on the way, right? And like Mitch, you have 2 kids and I have 3 kids, and I'm thinking 3 is a pretty good number. You know what I mean? I'm not saying people can't have more or whatever, but 3, it makes sense in the sense of you're not only replacing yourself, but you're adding one. You know what I mean? So it's, I would assume, at least replacement level, right? If everybody has 3 kids. And so you would need a 5-bedroom. I guess I only need a 4-bedroom house, because if you have a couple and then 3 kids, but I was thinking 5 because 5 people, but whatever. A guest room also. But my point was just everybody should have a house with plenty of bedrooms, because because then you get to the point where you're like, well, my house, I have a son and 2 daughters. Well, my son's going to need his own room. The daughters might each want their own room. So, you know what I mean? Like, I know
Yeah.
I don't have 2 daughters, but I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
So you would need those rooms. But if you bought a house that's too small because you bought it just for you and your partner, then you're going to need a better house, right? But then you're going to need another loan for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to need to. So I'm like, why can't everyone just have their first house as a fucking 5-bedroom house?
Yeah.
And then you think about it. Well, why not? Because you have to have a loan for that, right? Where does that money come from?
The bank.
And I was thinking like, well, why can't we just print the money for people to have that? But it's like, well, we're not going to just print the money to give you that, because if we did that, like you're only going to do it if you're going to make money from it.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So if people can't afford to pay the interest, blah, 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 why would they do it? Instead
Right.
of it just being like a right, like when you, let's say you have a house and then when you have a family, you get a better house automatically.
Yeah.
Why not?
Like let's say, you know, you live out in some countryside, and when you get married, when you have kids, then like everybody in your community comes over and they raise a barn. And then boom, there you
Sure,
go.
but I just mean like couldn't this money be printed if that was how the system worked, where you could just get the money to build a new house?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And
Yeah.
maybe that practically that exact solution may or may not work, but I'm just using it as an example. But oh no, you can't do that. But if you want to start some company, like think about a company that a bank would give a loan to. You know what I mean? Like a media company or something.
Yeah.
Which the purpose of the media company is not to benefit and improve the world. It's just like, oh, I know I can get advertisers and subscribers and people watching and stuff, and I can make entertaining comment that keeps people engaged. You know what I mean? It's not because it actually it adds to the balance of everything being best. It's just, can you make money from it? So I was just looking at the point of how it's not that we can't print money. It's just that we have to print it only if we can make money from it.
Yeah.
And, if there was no concept of interest, then why would it really matter if you made money from it?
There is no concept of interest. Why would it make money? Why would it matter if you make money from it?
You're asking if you made money from loaning out money?
Yeah, no, hang on. Because look at this. Look at this. It's
Like the government
um,
prints the money.
but hang on. Because uh the whole thing about interest is it's like then you get more, but that means everybody else gets less. Like that's how interest works essentially. Is like, or even if you're looking at like especially because with interest, here's what I'm seeing. With interest, the Federal Reserve says, okay, we're gonna loan you out this money, but you have to pay us back with interest. But where the fuck does that interest come from?
It
Well,
makes no sense.
yeah, we were just gonna make it up. So that means that everybody else's money has to devalue in order for you to have more then. So you're basically just saying, here's money, it expires essentially. If we're gonna have more, you're gonna have to do this forever. That's basically how interest works.
Yeah, and people would say, well, you can't just print the money to give the money to the person to build a house because that would cause inflation. But I'm like, isn't it interest that causes inflation?
It is actually.
Like also printing money in the context of there being an interest-based system. So I'm not
Yeah,
saying printing money doesn't have that effect, but it only has that effect if the value of money is whether it's worth money, if that makes sense, rather than it's worth doing something that matters. If it was the value was only whether it does something that matters, no one would give a shit the value of the money.
yeah. Okay, so what's interesting about that is like, okay, um, interest is like really like the mind, if you think about it, because it's like constantly trying to survive and constantly trying to like, okay, more, but it doesn't actually exist. Whereas in reality, the resources that we have, like we have a system that everything is finite. It's like it feeds back into itself. Like we burn up a bunch of carbon or whatever, and it goes into the atmosphere, and guess what? It gets recycled into the plants. It gets recycled and like into the ground.
It's finite in a sense, but we're also always getting, like, we have a hyperabundance of it through the sun, right? The sun is always input into the system.
Sure, sure, but what I'm saying is like as far as everything that we use as resources on this planet, it's like you drink water. Guess what happens? You pee it out, right? Or you sweat it out, and then you drink more, and then there's more water out. And this is like all the water that you've ever drank in your life went through some other animal at some point.
Well, when you sweat, doesn't it get evaporated into the atmosphere?
Right. It doesn't just stay on you and then get reabsorbed into your body. Like that's why you're left with that little salt. You ever sweat so much you got like salt on you?
Yeah, I'm a natural salt lick.
Yeah, I
That's why my dogs are always licking me, like my legs when I sit down by the fire pit when I'm doing my ritual sacrifices.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
always
yeah.
coming up and licking my like legs and knees and
They're
stuff.
not licking the goat blood off your legs,
Oh yeah, but
but it's salty.
It's because it got salt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very salty.
Yeah.
but the whole
Yeah.
thing doesn't make any sense. It's just based on somebody's in a position where they can have a lot by being in control of the point of they get to say who gets money and who doesn't.
Yeah.
That's all it fucking is.
Yeah.
Because if it was like no one is special, okay, no specials, and everyone just gets money equally in the sense of what they actually need. Now you might identify, hey, this person over here has some talent at some particular thing, so we should put money towards that. So they might get more in that context than another person over here who maybe doesn't need that money to do what they do or whatever, or maybe they just need a house. But we don't look at it that way. And then if you don't give people what they need, isn't there conflict?
Yep.
I was watching something yesterday, and it was Vivek Ramaswamy talking to Tucker Carlson,
Oh.
and he said, during his campaign, he was going around the country, and he was like seeing that people, because he asked him, why is number one on your list of truths that there is a God, or God is real, or whatever this number one proposition is, right? And he was like, because, and part of his answer was just basically going around the country, he could see people are hungry for purpose, right? And I sent you a thing. Hold on, let me get that one real quick. I sent just not too long ago. It said,
I probably didn't watch it yet.
oh, it was Jim Brewer.
I didn't watch that one.
Here, let me do that one real quick. It's not long.
Okay.
I just read the caption of it,
Yeah.
and I'll just here, let me play it real quick because I think it really subs it up. Subs it up. Is that what I said?
Subs it up. Hey, you know what we should talk about? Well, what I really want to get into is the Eric Weinstein thing.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that too. Here, I'll play this real quick. Go.
Going, oh, you know,
Come on,
I
now.
was portraying the ridiculousness
Yeah.
of what I'm watching. I'm watching the mayor of New York eating McDonald's French fries.
Right.
Probably the most
Free.
unhealthy, disturbing food, if it is food, going, you mean I get free French fries if I stick this needle in me? Who's not watching this going, oh, you know what? Maybe something's weird going on. How do you not?
I know.
It still
Okay.
staggers my thought process that anyone will still defend those times.
I know.
And they'll still go. They use all the, part of that I did.
Can you find that clip and
I
play
call
it?
it the
Hold on.
cockatoos.
Which
The
clip?
cockatoo.
I really just was looking for this part. I didn't realize how long the clip was.
No, can you
This
find
part-
the clip of Andrew Cuomo eating a burger?
I think it was Bill de Blasio.
Oh, it was Bill de Blasio?
Maybe you
Oh,
can
okay,
send
okay.
it to me.
Okay.
But it says, I'll just read this part because I'm assuming he's going to say it at some point. Before Trump was president, not many people questioned Hollywood or the news. You trusted everything they said. Everyone trusted all pharmacies, all doctors, everything. All of it is now flopping, not just in America, across the whole world. No one's taking it seriously anymore. They're losing. I have lots of hope, and I truly believe incredible things are on the way. So it's just that point of people are not buying the shit anymore. I mean, is some people? Yes. I understand that. Is anything going to change just because people aren't or are waking up? No. But my point is simply that people are starting to not buy the bullshit anymore.
Mhm.
Or
there's another clip that's just
Here,
starting.
I'll put it on. It's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
Just this one. Right.
Fries when you get vaccinated?
Wait, here we go.
Did you say free fries when you get vaccinated? I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this? Let me
You
check
just paid
with
the big
Bill
bucks
Is
'cause he
it
doesn't
too
track
early
his
in the
file.
day to eat a burger? No. This could be breakfast? Okay. I want you to look at this and think about, again, Some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination.
That may be the truest thing he said. When you think of getting vaccination, just think of this disgusting greasy burger. You could have one maybe every few months or something, but not giving it to a baby when they're first born, like 30 burgers at one time. Also, maybe don't eat this burger ever. Don't ever eat this burger. Maybe get like a natural, like a cow that you raised and that you know what you put into it and was eating grass for most of its life, and then like that, and then you made the buns yourself and you know what went into it, and the ketchup you made that at home, and you grew the lettuce in your garden. Like, eat those burgers.
Right.
Yeah, you could just see though, like he knows everyone's fucking like all of his buddies behind the camera are laughing because they're like, look at this, and he doesn't fucking crack. It's impressive, but I have no respect for him. It's like that's his role. Like, that's his role, is to be that fucking guy
Mitch,
that can be the fucking clown.
did you watch the Yuval Noah Harari?
I'm like halfway through it.
Okay, all right.
Dude, I feel, Drake, like we need to, me and you, do like a whole podcast of just watching that and like commenting and pausing it, and like, because there's just so much.
There's
reaction
so
video?
much within it that's just like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Like, he's lying. Like you're watching it, and the entire time you're watching it, you're like, you're lying. You're fucking lying. And like, you can see what he's trying to like manipulate for, but like the whole time, like, I mean, if you have just some common sense, you can just completely see like, holy shit, you're lying to make this point again. Like, how can you be this dishonest where like exactly what he's saying, and like for him to make the sophisticated argument that he's making, he has to know what the truth is. You know what I'm saying? It's like okay, what I'm trying to say is this. It would be like, I don't fucking know. I'm just trying to come up with something off the top of my head.
What was the sophisticated argument?
Okay, so he said, okay, he was saying, that someone could come in and change democracy by changing the rules. They could become a dictator, right? And basically, it would end democracy, because democracy is a discussion, and you have to have a peaceful transfer of power. And if you don't have that, then basically what would happen is then you have a dictatorship. And the problem with a dictatorship is that when you have a dictatorship, then if somebody makes a mistake, there's no checks or balances to say, hey, you dictator, you made a mistake and we need to correct this. Right?
Okay, here, let me play this part.
Okay.
Let me go back a little bit. Let me see if this is good.
Yeah, it would be, again, I don't know what are the chances, but
Let me go back a little bit.
this is one of the illusions we live under, though. We think, that can never happen to the UK or the United States or Canada, these sort of quote unquote civilized nations. According to some measurements, democracy in the United States is quite new and quite fragile. If you think about it in terms of who gets to vote, for instance. So it would be, again, I don't know what are the chances, but even if there is a 20% chance that a Trump administration would change the rules of the game of American democracy in such a way as to make it, for instance, by changing the rules about who votes or how do you count votes, that it will
that right there.
become
That right there. Stop.
almost
Yeah.
impossible to.
Yeah.
That's already happened. They already
It's
fucking
literally what they're
changed
doing.
the
It's what the
rules.
Democrats are doing.
They already changed
we
the rules
watch-
of
didn't
who
we
votes
watch
or how they
Biden-
count the votes.
Didn't we watch Biden drop out and Kamala Harris suddenly become the nominee without any real process?
Go back to
Yeah.
the election before that. They literally changed the rules of who votes and how they count the votes. Oh, who can vote? Like, literally anybody. You don't have to have it. Like, okay, just
Yeah.
mail in from home. Yeah, okay. So anybody, and we just ship all these fucking things in, and we're just gonna count them. Well, we're gonna count them after after the voting, takes place, even though these ballots came in later. We're not going to say anything about that. And there's people literally dumping fucking ballots. And you're like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like that literally happened, and he's being really fucking dishonest about like,
Well,
that happened.
he's really good at saying the thing that sounds good.
Yeah.
Almost as if he doesn't have a bias. But then you can see there's a bias. Excuse me, because like previously, right before that clip, I just didn't know how far back to go. They were talking about the point of like Putin, for example, apparently being elected and then making it so that no one can ever really challenge him again. Right? That's the idea. I mean, I don't know if that's actually true or not, but let's just say it is.
Right.
Okay. Well, then they were talking about, that could even happen here. And it's like, okay, yeah, I agree. That could happen here. That's a danger. The next person who gets elected could do that. Both sides equally, right? But what example do they give? Donald Trump. And then later, here, let me play the rest of it. Okay. Because you think, oh, it's just an example he's giving, right? It's just an example.
Because he goes into,
hold on. That's my point.
Got rid of them. That's not out of the possible in historical terms.
Do you think it's possible that Trump will do that?
Yes. I mean, you saw it on the 6th of January.
Fell for it.
I mean,
Here we go. January 6th.
The most sensitive moment.
Look at his fucking face. Look at his fucking face. Well, especially right there.
Democracy is the moment of transfer of power.
Listen to this.
And the magic of democracy is that democracy is meant to ensure a peaceful transfer of power. But as I said, like you choose one party, you give them a try. After some time, if people say they didn't do a good job, let's try somebody else. And you have people who hold.
That is not what democracy is. That's some artificial construction that we've abused the idea of democracy to create or to justify and uphold. That is not democracy. Democracy, the magic of democracy is not the peaceful transfer of power from one party to another. You try one thing, you do something else. Like,
but
it's like what? Okay, what are the things he's not saying? What are the things he's not saying? Does the media have total undue influence on everybody's minds in terms of their perceptions?
And he does say that later. Because
I know he says it, but he doesn't apply it to both sides.
No.
He's only applying it to the one side, the one that we all know is bad. And it's like
the one that needs to be censored.
That's what I'm saying, dude. We could do a whole just watch this thing and stop it and talk, because there was so many points. It was a very frustrating thing to listen to, because on the one hand, he'll say something that's like, yeah, that makes sense. But then you're like, oh, you're saying that because it's true, but you're only going to apply it here. Like the whole point about the algorithms, he talked about, maybe I'll just go back real quick to that part. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
I don't know where it was. Maybe in the 40s.
Let me try.
41.
Hold on one second. It has timestamps, which is nice.
It's muted, or we can't hear it anyway.
Oh, maybe I didn't do it. I thought it automatically.
At a certain point too, Cameron, if you can explain that about the two types of democracy, that's like a really important point. Maybe we talk about that after this.
And I really just want to listen to this whole fucking thing. It's so crazy. Let me see if I can speed it up a little bit. Let's playback speed 1.25. Let's just go back here real quick.
You wrote this book, Nexus.
No,
How do you pronounce it?
Nexus.
Beyond that.
Nexus.
Beyond it?
I'm not an expert
Yeah.
on pronunciation, so AI.
Because most people's understanding of what AI is comes from them playing around with a large language model like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or something. That's like their understanding of it. You can ask it a question and it gives you an answer. That's really what people think of AI as. And so it's easy to be a bit complacent with it, or to see this technological shift as being trivial. But when you start talking about information and the like disruption of the flow of information and information networks, and when you bring it back through history and you give us this perspective on the fact that information effectively glues us all together, then it starts to become, for me, I think about it completely differently.
I mean, there are two ways I think about it. I mean, one way is that when you realize that, as you said, that information is the basis for everything, when you start to shake the basis, everything can collapse or change or something new
That's
to
a
come up.
great point there.
For instance,
But you listen to Resonant Seed.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, exactly. Like, this is why people are so resistant to change or resistant to new information, because it means oh, I have to change. Like everything that I know,
Everything
or
might
think of-
change.
Yeah, everything that how I perceive the world will change. Like that is
Think of all your beliefs, because he's going to talk about institutions. Think of all your beliefs as an institution.
Mhm.
And so it's like you're trusting that. And now you're having to trust yourself because you don't trust yourself. You trust the institution of your beliefs and your thoughts and everything out there. But
Man.
going back to Jim Brewer, he's like, guys, everyone's seeing it's all bullshit anyway. So it's like, okay, we're all realizing we shouldn't be trusting any of it.
Yeah, that's a really
But
great
then we
point.
don't trust ourselves yet. So it's like, I need to find somebody to blame. That's the whole problem with the anti-Semitism thing, is not because there aren't some valid patterns there. It's just like, we got to blame them and shake our fist at them and tell everybody about how bad they are. I'm like, that only leads to like violence. You know what I mean? It doesn't really go anywhere because you're not seeing, well, what actually needs to change. Like I saw this quote from, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
Which one was it? Oh, this Nick Fuentes. I just want to show this real quick.
Okay.
I'm not even going to play it, but just this. It says, here's the problem. America used to be 90% white. It isn't anymore. The world used to be controlled by Christians, but now it's controlled by Jews. The problem with that is,
Okay, but then if that is the case, let's say, if that is the case, then how did they fumble that
right.
fucking
It's like the boomers going like, oh, it's these kids and all their participation trophies. And I'm like, or people going like, well, the problem is parents stop spanking their kids. And I'm like, who stopped spanking them? The fucking geniuses who got spanked?
Right.
Why did they stop doing that? Apparently spanking your kid makes you not spank the next generation, which means it didn't fucking work.
Right.
So it's like, so the Christians never applied the Jesus message in reality, because even if you want to blame the Jews, like, okay, they're so bad, they do all these things. Okay, but who allowed the conditions for that to happen?
Right.
That'd be like, well, I don't want to say something that's too, I can't think of a way to say it where it was misinterpreted. I was gonna say it's like washing your hand. It's like not washing your hands and then blaming the parasite that's on your hands.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
But you know what I'm trying to say though, like
that analogy. Okay.
but what I'm saying is, it's like, okay, let's just say it's like you have a system where like everyone is competing for survival. Okay, at the end of the day, that's what's going on, and so people are easily manipulated based on that. And people can get away with all kinds of shit because you're not even focusing on it. You're just in your little bubble doing your little thing over here. But why didn't the Christians implement, like, how long did they have the fucking Jesus message? And go back. Okay, hear me out. Go back. Let me stop this for a second. Go back and read all of the councils, the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Trent, the blah, 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 blah. Read the catechism, read all the fucking church fathers, go back to St. Augustine, Jerome, read all these fucking people. St. Thomas Aquinas, like, just read all of it. Where in there are they talking about, let's actually create a system where everybody has their basic needs met and we can actually give as we want to receive and like create heaven on earth? They're arguing about the fucking Trinity and like, how do we make it make sense? Because it doesn't make sense. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Well, how do we invent a new branch of philosophy to make it make sense? And you're like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
It makes so little sense that Islam was possible, because they were like, hey, you know how like the Trinity doesn't make sense? What if there's just one God actually? And everyone's like, oh yeah, that might make more sense. And now, like, when you say, well, that's a stupid idea, that's what the Christians might say, but how many Muslims are there now? How do they go from like nothing, some fucking goat fucker in, the middle of a desert, to like billions of people, if it's just some retarded stupid thing that doesn't make any sense?
Right.
But they've spent the whole thousands of years trying to justify all these different logical whatever points, assumptions in Christianity, and it was never implemented. And so how is that a solution? So you see these people where it's like they have some cool points, but then their thing is, well, if we were just all white and Christian, and I'm like, if it already was that way, why isn't the world best for all then?
Right. It doesn't, like, clearly that didn't work. That's the whole point of
isn't it the same thing, like blaming the Jews, the same thing as like, how can you sit here and be like, well, they blame the white people, that's bad, then why are you doing it?
But it's like,
even if the pattern you're seeing is a valid pattern.
But here's what I want to get across. It's the same point in the fall of God, because that fell, you can't go back to it. That doesn't make sense.
It's done.
Yeah, like obviously that didn't work. You're gonna have to be something
It
Better,
shows you, okay,
difference.
if this was the conditions, would it work or not? And it didn't work. So there's no reason to go back to it. That doesn't mean you can't take some cool points from it, right? Like, do you trying to go back to the 50s, make your wife stay at home? It's like, my wife has her own car. She can drive wherever she wants. Ask her, does she want to go get a job? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The only reason why women want to go and get jobs is because they've been brainwashed into thinking that their only value is in making money so that some people can benefit from that.
And the
That-
guys nowadays on average are losers, so they don't trust them
that-
to provide.
Right.
All that is true, and also because the money system does not work like the way that it is, and,
Right.
so like
Right.
they're saying we don't have any fucking funds in our fucking bank account. They're like, I got to go out and go make some money so that we can survive. They're focused on survival too.
I got to go out and make money to pay for the daycare that my kid's going to be going to while I'm out making money, guys. Come on, it's simple mathematics. How am I going to afford the daycare for them to watch my kid all day while I'm out working if I don't have a job?
Women are not the best at logic. Let me just say that. just say that.
Apparently, their husbands aren't good at logic either.
No.
Katie was telling me this whole story she saw where this guy like had a girlfriend and then she didn't ever work and then they got married and then she still didn't work and for like 6 years this whole thing and then they got divorced and now he was saying he regretted it. And the person was asking him something. I mean, I didn't see the story, so I'm just kind of paraphrasing it, but it was something like, why did you, if she had had kids, would you have wanted her to stay at home? And the guy was like, yeah. So it's like, well, then why the fuck did you care if she worked or not? Ever. But it's like, why would he be like, no, you need to go work? For what reason? Because you're like, well, bring that extra income in. Okay, but then you're gonna get a bigger mortgage
Yeah.
for your two incomes, and then how are you gonna afford it later when she goes to work? So then you're gonna subconsciously, then you're not gonna want her to stay home.
Right.
But it's like, why does, again, it's not, you can't blame this one guy because he's just in the system and just going along with things. But you could just see how the whole fucking thing makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me go back to this then. Hold on.
Okay, as you're going back to that, since you
Go
mentioned this point of institutions, I thought it was really good to.
Well, we're gonna get to that too. Yeah.
I know, but Mitch was like saying like, hey, let's really hit on that point today. The institutions, when you said like you have these institutions within you that we're just relying on,
Like your
and
characters.
it's
Like real
characters,
democracy would
but
be
like,
every single cell in your body working together to decide what's best for life.
it would be you
But
trusting
it's
yourself.
been hijacked.
It'd be you trusting yourself, meaning like you said, doing what's best, right? But then also like, oh, I made a mistake. It's like not being afraid of failure. I made a mistake. Okay, but I'm gonna go and fix this and do it better. But instead, what we do, we judge ourselves. Instead, what we do is we're like, and if I make myself feel guilty, then I'll feel better. What I was this thing that I was looking at for kids. You ever see a parent who's like, they punish their kid or whatever, like they do a punishment for their kid, but then their kid seems like, oh, I'm gonna take this away from you, and the kid just seems like, okay, whatever, who cares? And then like the parent's like, oh no, see, now I gotta do more. It's like, oh, right there, you are instructing your child to feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the actual punishment. It's not that you're taking this away or that or whatever. It's like you want them to self-automate the like feeling of like, oh, I did something bad. And that's what cycles through each and every generation.
Right.
Like
The reinforcement learning right there.
that's the institution. That's an institution within you that we just automatically trust. That's where our democracy goes, essentially, within ourselves. So this is on the individual scale, right? That's where your democracy goes of like, I just trust this institution to make the decisions for me, and I'm supposed to feel bad right now. I deserve to feel bad. Like people legitimately believe they deserve to feel bad. They're supposed to feel bad, and they need to feel bad, and like, oh, I gotta feel guilty and all this shit, and they're not able to like recognize, oh, well, why did this happen, and how did I get to this point of creating this condition, and what can I do about that and changing that so that I can take more responsibility. But they immediately go into feeling bad, and then they're worried about the consequence of, well, how do I make myself stop feeling bad? Well, but they're not looking at what created those conditions, the cause in the first place. It's just now, oh, well, no, but I just feel bad now.
This is the problem with twisting Jesus into essentially a superhero who's going to save you. Because when that guilty point comes, that feeling bad or whatever it is, you have to be able to forgive it and be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to operate based on that. But what does the person say that they need Jesus for? Because we're all broken. We can't save anything. We can't fix anything. So we need Jesus. But it's like, but if you are forgiven by Jesus, you should no longer have that idea within you that you are broken. It should be gone. It's like, well, I am. I'm renewed by the Lord and all this. So I'm like, then change the system. Well, no, we can't. We're broken. It's like, no, see, you're twisting the point and you're using it as a scapegoat, actually.
So what's interesting is like towards the end, Harari says, because the host asks him, Stephen asks him, like, are you, we have a question from the last person. Here's the question that they asked. They said, how do you define strength? And he said, strength is seeing reality, like accepting reality.
Yeah.
And then he said the most convoluted.
But he thinks we came from monkeys, and that monkeys fuck each other, and that's why being gay is totally normal.
But like the way that he says accept reality is just like accept, you know, everything that's out there, as opposed to like because like, it's a great point. Accept reality of like, okay, look at where your weaknesses are, and then actually do something about it, versus like trying to suppress the other side, trying to like, oh, like I want to just ignore my weakness here and look strong over here or whatever. But like actually accepting reality would be that point of, okay, I feel shitty right now. And not just going to like, okay, well, what's going to make me feel good? Oh, if I just scroll, oh, you sent that one thing, Cam, remember? It was, I don't know why you sent this. Maybe you can explain why you sent this, but it was the guy who was talking about porn, the young guy. And he was like, you have this house. And it was like, the guy was like, give me 5 minutes, give me 10 minutes. And you will stop porn forever after this, right? I'm not really sure why you said that, but
I just thought he was really good at selling the point.
Oh, okay.
And like, if you just look at the style and the structure of how he sells, it was really good.
Okay.
It just was recommended to me on my feed, and I looked at it. Yeah.
Do you need help?
I don't watch porn, but I watch people talking about stopping watching porn.
Do you need help stopping that?
I need help stop watching porn videos. I'm addicted to not watching porn videos.
I forgot why I brought that up actually. But basically, he says this point of like, anytime you go to watch porn, this is, I thought was really good. You realize you don't actually, you're not happy doing it. You're not enjoying it. You get some pleasure out of it, but really the whole time you're just trying to avoid some negative feeling. And if you were to actually objectively watch yourself, you don't.
But that's how that's why a lot of people have sex though.
Okay.
So I think for a lot of people, it's not really fundamentally different.
Yeah.
So there is a difference between really having sex with someone and you're intimate with them and so forth.
That's a good
point.
But
for a lot of people, it's just bang, bang, bang. Okay, I'm done. Okay, now I feel better for a moment. Like,
yeah,
that's really all it is. And they're not building anything in their life. They're not focusing on anything. So it's like, you're just doing it it's just like praying to Jesus. You're doing it to relieve something for a moment. That's it. So that doesn't mean you should watch porn, because there's a lot of other problems with it. So if you had to choose, I would say rather just have sex with a person than watch porn, even if you still have that starting point.
Consensual sex, just to be clear.
Huh?
Consensual sex, just to be clear.
Of course. I'm not a Muslim. Okay.
I'm not a IDF soldier.
I'm not on the Epstein client list. Okay. I'm not trying to rescue hostages over here. Okay. Come on. Let me finish this thing though.
Yeah. I think
democracies are made possible only by information technology. Democracy, in essence, is a conversation. A group of people conversing, talking, trying to make decisions together. Dictatorship is somebody dictates everything. One person dictates everything. That's dictatorship. Democracy is a conversation. Now, in the Stone Age, hunter-gatherers living in small bands, they were mostly democratic. Whenever the band needed to decide anything, they...
By the way, this is a false story that he's just made up.
Right, he speaks with so much certainty.
As human societies grew bigger, it just became technically difficult to hold the conversation.
Can you pause
So
it? Can
the
you pause it? He just gave a definition of democracy that's not an actual definition of democracy at all. At all. But this is a starting
know.
point.
It's
that
a conversation.
The whole rest of his interview or whatever, he can refer back to this conversation.
But it doesn't even make sense in the context of what he says later.
No.
Okay, yeah.
only examples we have from the ancient world for democracies are small city-states, like Athens or Republican Rome. These are the two most famous examples, not the only ones, but the most famous. And even the ancients, even philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, they knew once you go beyond the level of a city-state, democracy is impossible. We do not know of a single example from the pre-modern world of a large-scale democracy. Millions of people spread over a large territory, conducting their political affairs democratically. Why? Not because of this or that dictator that took power, because democracy was simply impossible. You cannot have a conversation between millions of people when you don't have the right technology. The large-scale democracy becomes possible only in the late modern era, when a couple of information technologies appear, first the newspaper, then telegraph and radio and television, and they make
Fucking
large-scale
bullshit,
democracy
man.
possible. So democracy, it's not like you have democracy and on the side you have these information technologies. No, the basis of democracy is information technology. So if you have some kind of earthquake in the information technology, like the rise of social media or the rise of AI, this is bound to shake democracy, which is now what we see around the world is that we have the most sophisticated information technology in history, and people can't talk with each other. The
Okay,
democratic
pause it.
conversation is breaking.
Okay, all right. 'Cause he makes a
Such
really
bullshit,
good,
man.
but he makes a really good point here. He makes a really
Yeah.
good point. So first off, he says there's no such thing as a large scale democracy with millions of people, and he's being honest there. Like that's the
Well,
only
pre-modern. That's what he
no,
said.
I know he says pre-modern afterwards, but he means it now. He means it now. There's no such thing as democracy. The other thing is that he says, oh, it's because of technology that we're all able to communicate with each other. But listen to what he says. It's because of newspapers and the printing press and all this shit. It's like, okay, but that's not actual democracy.
Okay, hold on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Sorry.
That's literally just like the propaganda that you're being fed. So now we can fucking tell you what to think, and that's literally.
Let's say
Read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. He says this is what he's doing with the fucking printing press. He said, like, he tells you, like, oh, we were able to get this mayor elected and this guy in this position and this guy over here and this because we all met together. I put it in the printing press and we spread it out. We disseminated this information. We made it seem organic. Everybody's now voting for this guy, and it seems like a grassroots movement. It's not. He's like, we decided on this shit.
It's like, okay, I don't know how to explain it. It's like he's saying things that are true, but he's lying at the same time.
Let me say
Go
one
ahead.
more thing. I think this is the problem for liars. Well, I don't know. It's not so much of a problem for them because this people are just so dumb and they're not. But the people who are like have this verbal acuity that they're able to just talk and like, you know, in the past you couldn't catch them because they would just talk so good and you'd be like, how did I end up agreeing with all this shit? Like, what the fuck? And he's like, but this guy, he's a great guy. He talks really good, blah, blah. Okay, but now it's like all recorded and you can just like pause it and like, fucking liar.
You can pause it and like, let me think about what you're saying.
Right.
Actually, let me go back to what you said before. Like, because, okay, I don't think he's even necessarily deliberately being deceptive. I think he's just an elitist. And he thinks the elite should run society. So I'm not saying he isn't deceptive, but it's a self-deceptive. It's like you listen to 8 stages of process. It's just the self-deceiver, right? And when he says self-deceiver, it doesn't mean you're deceiving yourself only. It means you're deceiving others as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't think he's like consciously lying. Maybe he is. I don't know. But
I think you have to consciously be lying in order to be like the way that the things that he's talking
well,
about.
yes, but you
The
also
part
have to
about, like, the
consciously
January
think you're
6th.
telling the truth.
Like
Yeah,
Sure.
that part right there where he's like, yeah, look, this is what Trump tried to do. Like,
It's so dishonest. It's so dishonest. Because literally, yeah.
I'm gonna look up.
But you know what? Maybe. Okay. So in the context of democracy being for the institutions, then what Trump did was actually like an insurrection of sorts. Because in the context of democracy,
Sure.
the way that we've defined it is supposed to be democracy of the institutions, not the will of the people.
Right.
Then he did do an insurrection because look,
He was challenging the credibility of the institutions that count the votes. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That he wasn't trying to take over the physical government through force. That what they did was, because if you look at the whole thing, it was literally a conspiracy by the fucking Democrats or whoever is in power behind the scenes to make it look like he was trying to take over the government while he was actually questioning the legitimacy of the whole point.
Right.
You know, you go back, watch the Tucker Carlson interview where he interviews the guy who was like the Capitol Police, the chief of the Capitol Police during that, on that day, dude. Like, what, unless you think that guy's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
Which he's clearly, you're watching, it's like he's just talking about what happened. Like,
right.
And he connects all these. I mean, it's probably the most interesting Tucker Carlson interview I ever listened to, because you're like, holy shit, dude. Like, this guy has like the facts, right? And
right.
So you can go through, if you want to look at that, you can go and watch that and see what I mean. Because like then you'll be like, oh, the whole thing was a setup.
And he doesn't double talk like this guy
right.
with very
That's
high
the point.
verbal acuity.
Exactly. That's how you know someone's not lying, because they're not doing that. I want to show you this real quick just before we go on. Right. George Orwell, doublethink means the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting both of them.
Bro, did you just like did we just have a brainwave connection here? How'd you have this already pulled up?
I was searching for it earlier, yeah.
Hilarious.
But that was my point, was just to show that point of like, when I say I don't know if he's consciously lying, it's like, it's like, you know, it's like a parent going to the kid like, oh, I don't know, I guess all the chocolate's gone, like we must not have any anymore. And you know you're lying to the kid, but you also just don't want them to ask you anymore.
Right.
So you're pretending like it's true because you know the outcome is what you want. And so I think that's why I called him an elitist. It's like, really, we want the elite to stay in power. That's why he said democracy, first of all, is a loaded term. It's an emotional term, first of all. No one gives a shit about democracy. They care about the feeling that word represents to them.
Yeah.
Because they don't. How can you be Hillary Clinton and be like, democracy, we have to protect democracy, but then half of our country is racist and idiots, and like we can't let them, you know, take, like, Trump is a threat to democracy. It's like, well, half the country wants him to be in office, so like, may the best man win, I suppose. You know, like, what is the, you know, and then he says, okay, city states was the only time we had democracy pre-modern era, because when you get bigger across a large distance of millions of people, they can't really communicate. Right. So he says democracy is a conversation. So these technologies enable us to have a conversation. But then what he's going to go into in a moment is that a lot of the information is junk, and the algorithms are directing it, and so it's influencing what we're thinking and saying to each other. So what we need to do
there, but yeah.
Well, but we need to get back to the point where we just have the institutions that we can trust that give us the information. How is a newspaper, a national newspaper, how is that a conversation between a person in California and a person in New York? How is a fucking national newspaper, or you know what I mean? Or CNN, how is that a conversation? No, that's the elite instructing you, the masses. That's not a conversation. That's an actual dictator.
Right.
So he's saying, oh, we have democracies, we have dictators. And I'm like, no, what you actually fear is an executive who actually is like, I'm going to stand as the will of the people. I don't care what the people say. It doesn't matter what they say. I stand as the authority of the people because I am going to do what is best for everybody. I don't need permission. I mean, maybe in the context of being in that position, you need permission. But what I mean is, you don't need to go ask everybody, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do that? What they don't want is, in the current context of how things exist, they don't want a person to come up and be like, no, we're going to do what's best. That's why they hate Hitler. It's not about the Holocaust. Because if it was about that, then no fucking Israeli would support what's happening in Gaza. We wouldn't support what's happening in Ukraine. We wouldn't support any of the fucking wars that have ever happened. Even if you want to say the Holocaust happened, it was a terrible thing, whatever. Here, think about this. Did we Did we ever have concentration camps in the U.S.?
Yeah.
When?
World War II,
The
Japanese
Japanese?
internment camp.
You know, I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody the other day from another country. They'd never heard about this. They were from Germany. So in World War II, let's just look it up. They called them internment camps.
Yeah. Also, the UK had camps of their own as well, and they
I
had.
saw that. I don't know what that was. I didn't watch it, but it was apparently like Churchill was more evil than Hitler.
Yeah,
Oh,
I saw the
yeah.
headline.
Yeah.
Saw the headline. That
we
was all
can
I
get to
saw.
that. Okay, look. During World War II, the United States forcibly relocated and incarcerated about 120,000 people of Japanese descent. These are not Japanese people. These are Americans in 10 concentration camps. Oh, wow. They actually used that term, concentration camp.
Oh, dude.
The War Relocation Authority.
I remember
Another
watching.
institution.
I remember watching this woman who she was of Japanese descent. She lived, I think, near Pearl Harbor, and her family had like a grocery chain. They were business owners. They had a grocery store or whatever. And she said, after this, her whole family got thrown into a concentration camp. They lost everything, right? But then, like, yeah. What's that?
Internment was intended to mitigate a security risk which Japanese Americans were believed to pose. And then they said it was like way far surpassing the numbers of German and Italian Americans. So like we didn't do that to German and Italian Americans. I don't know what the story is with that, why, but you know, maybe because the Japanese actually attacked us.
Maybe because we could look at Japanese and be like, you're Japanese.
A key member of the Western Defense Command, that was the group that did it, Colonel Carl Bendetson, went so far as to say, I'm determined that if they have one drop of Japanese blood in them, they must go to camp. They must go to camp. Like, you're just going to camp. Barbed wire fences patrolled by armed guards, often crowded and sparsely furnished barracks. They were prohibited to take anything they could carry. How did they get them there? How did they get them there?
Trail of Tears.
How did they get Japanese into camps in US? I was just trying to figure out if they just put them on trains or not.
I think the argument would then be, well, but Cameron, you know, did we have gas chambers and were we mass killing them, or more just keeping them in a prison? I mean, that would be the system argument, right?
Okay, let's look at that then, because look, I wasn't there. I don't fucking know what happened. I don't know. All I know is you're telling me one thing, you're telling me one thing. I'm looking at all the points. Okay, so let's just say we're not making an argument. We're just looking at the information and we're looking at the argument and following the argument, not making an argument, just following the argument. Somebody could make the argument that, okay, imagine if the United States was at war with Canada and Mexico, and Canada and Mexico had some badass fucking military that was like next level, like equal to the US. And they were cutting off all our supplies and weren't letting ships come in and everything. And it was like the end of the war. And it was like we were almost fucking decimated. They had bombed all of our factories. They had bombed all of our pharmaceutical factories, all of our drug, you know, all of our food supplies, all of everything, right? What do you think would have happened to those Japanese people in those camps?
They would have died.
Why?
Hunger, supplies,
typhoid, like whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? So does that mean we would have mass exterminated them? No, I'm not saying that, right? But if someone was making the argument that that's not what happened in Germany, and it was actually they, like you say, well, why were they there in the first place? They were just blaming the Jews. Like, dude, we literally did that to the Japanese. We said because they were Japanese descent, we can't trust them. I mean, go back and listen to the fucking AI generated speeches from Hitler. Isn't that what he was saying about them, about the Jews there?
AI translated, just to be clear.
AI translate, yeah. Like, does that mean you have to agree with Hitler to point out, hey, we were literally doing the same thing? And if you don't make the assumption that they were deliberately killed, okay, like in order to get rid of them. See, but then he would say, well, that's what's happening in Gaza. They're deliberately trying to genocide these people, aren't they? Oh, no. Come on. You're totally making that up. We weren't trying to genocide anybody in Gaza. That's not what's happening. even though there's been like 40,000, I don't know the number, 40,000 something people killed there now, civilians. Like, that's not a genocide? That's not deliberate? Well, no, they just happen to be in the houses that we're bombing. Why are you bombing the houses? Well, because we're looking for terrorists underground in tunnels. Like, what? No. Okay, if you want to say, which is you're right, if you want to say the Holocaust was a deliberate attempt to exterminate the Jews, fine, that's the truth, right? That's what everyone agrees on. Okay, well then that's what they're doing in Gaza.
I mean, that it's a very obvious.
Why can't I say that? Why can't, you know? And then
Did
what's
you-
so, yeah.
Did you see that thing? There's like, man, I just because I've been on Twitter because you sent me shit, and then
Why is it bad to say that the Israelis or whoever is deliberately killing people? And now, do I know that for a fact? I don't. But does anyone know for a fact that's what they were doing in Nazi Germany?
Well, they would say yes.
They don't know it though. There's no proof.
Yeah.
It's just assumptions on both sides. If it was so clearly proven, nobody would be able to question it.
Right.
It would be like, well, you can't. I mean, it's right there. There's the proof. But the fact that they're able to question it so much, and if it was so clearly, obviously true, why would you ever need to worry about somebody claiming it wasn't?
Right.
I'm not saying that makes it automatically untrue. I'm just saying there's clearly no definitive proof. Does it? You see what I'm saying? There's clearly no definitive, because if there was, it'd be like anybody who's a quote Holocaust denier. Who gives a fuck? They're retarded. They're not looking at the obvious facts. No, they're dangerous, apparently.
And it's legal. You know?
They're dangerous because they will turn the world against, you know, Jewish people or whatever. But it's like, look at how people talk about the Gazan people in Gaza and Muslims and shit. Look at how they talk about the Crusades. Look at how they talk about white colonizers.
It's so clear
Like-
the only way through is forgiveness. Like there's no amount of retaliation that will solve any of it.
Well, no, because it's like Bernard said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I mean, not that he came up with that, but like that is
Yeah. It's literally what's
the-
happening.
But that is the religious starting point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
For everyone.
Like, oh
to
my
be
God, you
blind.
have your God, we're gonna fucking battle until we're both blind.
Yeah, it's like just revenge battle. It's like, okay, if religion was an answer, this would have already been heaven on earth. So
Right. And then it's interesting, right? Because then you look at like where does blame, because really revenge and blame, it's all the same thing. You look at where that comes from. It's fear, which comes from doubt, which comes from inequality. So it's
right, if
like
there's
we
no
really
inequality, we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
right. Right.
That's why we said
You
from the
did it
beginning,
well.
if Israel had just been, you know what, we're gonna not fight anymore, and we're just gonna give everything we can to the Gaza. Because then you have to have JFK or RFK Jr. out there bending over backwards to be like, look, they're helping them so much. There's so much aid going in there, but they're corrupt and all this. It's like, yeah, but
think-
it's not conspicuous, is it?
I think they are giving everything they can to Gaza. Didn't they give them like all their bombs?
Yeah, like more than Dresden. I think that's what
More than
that's what
Hiroshima?
that's what Clandis Ovens said.
Oh, yeah. That's what we call her in our
Clandis
community.
Ovens. That's what you people call her. Clandis. Pretty clever.
It's pretty funny.
Can I continue with the Harari thing?
Well, I was just going to make this point of Harari because, I mean, yeah, you can continue with it. Yeah. I was just going to make the point of like, with the Harari thing, it's so interesting seeing this from the perspective of what Eric Weinstein was talking about. Like, can you just go to,
well, yeah, go ahead. What?
I was just going to say, can you go to like, I think it's because where he starts talking about Facebook and
It was
Facebook
Weinstein.
being
What
like,
was the other person?
Chris Williams.
Oh, modern wisdom.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
modern wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
should remember who.
but I think it's the part where he's talking like Harari's talking about Facebook, Wall Street Journal, all of that. Where he's like,
Oh,
it
I thought
should
you
be-
meant the Eric Weinstein one. Sorry.
No. I am talking about that, but I'm saying like for the Harari point, like he starts making the point of like they have just as much responsibility as the Wall Street Journal or any like mainstream news media, they should be held to the same standard, right?
Which is exactly what Kamala Harris was saying.
Which is, wow, what is this coincidence? But
Because he can be anti-Trump because Trump doesn't represent the institutions.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
like,
maybe he does. I don't know. But I'm just saying,
he represents,
ostensibly he doesn't, right?
and I don't know, because like there's the foil is just so like, it's so foily. You know what I
It's
mean?
so many layers.
It's so foily. It's just like, this has to be the only option. You get what I'm saying, Mitch? Like, like you got the background foil for like, and then here's the choice. Here's the obvious choice that you should
Yeah.
pick, because everything else is like so shitty. It's like, really? I guess this is where we're going, guys. Like it seems like to be the
I mean,
only thing that makes sense.
What is
in
free
general,
speech?
like, I just see why it's so fucking vital what we do what we do.
Yeah. Okay.
The only way I make sense of any of this.
So freaking Harari saying, you can't monitor somebody's free speech. You got to let everybody on the platform, but you can't, as Facebook or as Twitter or whatever, you can't promote it to other people so that they
Hold on. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I
he's like,
see what he's saying.
don't ban the individuals, but don't let the algorithms run. It's like, so then how do you determine what people see?
Right.
No algorithm.
Okay. And think about this. During COVID, like when somebody would go on and they had all those doctors, you remember this? When all those doctors were at the Supreme Court and they were like, we want to make a PSA of, you need to be taking some vitamin D, you need to be or getting outside in the sun, you need to be eating healthy. This is what they're not showing you. Here are some proven things that we've been doing in our practice that will help if you take ivermectin, if you take this. Like they were saying this, all these, like they had 30 doctors that were saying, in our clinics, this is what we're doing. And it was like catching like wildfire. It was like everybody was like, oh shit, share this. And it was going on Facebook. They told Facebook, you need to fucking suppress this. You need to like just fucking put this down.
Dude.
And like that's what he's talking about when he's saying the algorithm can't be pushing these things, but it's literally, this is what the people fucking want.
Dude, what if they get rid of Biden, she becomes president, or they don't have to even do this when she's not president, just pass executive orders that regulates the companies? Because what I'm seeing is like, he's basically, the reality of what he's saying is he's trying to get you. Okay. It's the whole Hegelian dialectic, where it's like you create a problem and then you have the reaction and then you provide the solution, but you really just had a solution in mind that you wanted and had nothing to do with any of that. Like what they want to do is censor people.
Obviously.
Like they knew that the Hunter Biden laptop would have affected the outcome of the election. Everyone knew it. We knew it right away. We saw it in real time. After the fact, they did the studies, they showed it.
That was another thing that was brought up in this conversation that he's just like, oh yeah, it doesn't count to that. It doesn't count. Like, big deal. I'm like, bro,
Oh
that's
yeah,
the whole fucking argument
he
you're
did bring
making.
that up. What was his
'Cause
response to that?
His response was like to ignore it. His response was ignore. That's what his response was.
Because the guy, the host guy brought up, okay, Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg
Yeah.
said all this stuff. He regrets that.
Right. And then he said, yeah, well, if the Wall Street Journal does something, he just completely ignored it.
It's like,
went into
as
a
long as the
completely different-
institution, which is the
Yes.
FBI, whoever said it, it doesn't. They can get away with false stuff, but the algorithms can't. Because what I really think it is they don't want things to be able to go viral that they don't control. They're going to say it's about hate. But the thing is, nobody cares about things that are going well. Why should we care about that? Why should I watch a video about how everything is great? Why should I watch a video about, hey, good things are happening?
Yeah.
Why does that deserve my attention? It's good. The good outcome will flow to me. Why do I need to? What I need to focus on is the problems.
Right.
That'd be like if you work at a architecture firm and they send you the blue, how everything's going, and you're like, I only want good news about the building, and they're like, well, what about this structural failure? That's gonna make me angry. Don't show me that. Like, you need to know that. Yeah, you might have an anger response. Like if
he says the algorithms they press the fear button and they press the greed and the I don't hate those 3 buttons. That's what they press. It's like, yeah, because you as a human being,
right. And they're saying the problem is you have these conspiracy theories about immigrants, and it just makes you hate them because they're different and they're bad and they're other cultures and stuff. And it's like, what if the person has a legitimate concern that the country they live in, which has a certain cultural set of agreements and so forth, people from another culture who don't share those values are coming in, and then as they grow in power politically, they're going to change the laws and so forth to reflect their values from their place, that was just go back to your country if you want to have those values. Look, maybe that's a totally false view, but isn't that a valid way of looking at it potentially?
He literally calls artificial intelligence alien intelligence because it thinks so differently from us. Think about this. If you had a fucking bunch of ants crawling, I had this at my last place. You have a bunch of fucking ants crawling into your house. You want to get rid of them. Why? Because they think differently than you. They want to eat your fucking food.
They don't care about, yeah.
They don't care about the same shit that you care about. There's like, they're creating a mess over here. You have fucking termites. They want to eat your fucking walls. You're like, whoa. I'm using these walls for the structure here. And they're like, yeah.
Okay, I had to shoot a coyote that was attacking our chickens.
Yeah.
Noah Harari probably would say, well, that coyote has to eat too.
But no, fuck the coyote.
Well, yes, that's true. But why don't we have an abundance of food out in the fucking forest that the coyote can eat?
Yeah, why does he have to eat my food that I raised?
Right. Why do I have to pay for the food? Why do I have to, why do you have to go take loans to fucking build businesses and do shit to like the system isn't set up to actually take care of everybody. It's like, well, let's just bring a bunch of immigrants in here. But the only way anybody has money is they have to take out a bunch of fucking loans.
Let me ask you something.
So does that make sense? Like, and then they're even doing the thing in California where everyone's getting upset because they're putting it into I think they just vetoed it or whatever, but it was going to be like,
they were going to give $150,000.
They would allow, they weren't saying immigrants couldn't apply for those loans. Let's put it that way. Right. They weren't saying no, obviously legal immigrants couldn't.
Let me ask you something. That coyote, before he crossed over your border to take your chickens, did he bring any babies?
I don't know. Okay. But if I find them, I'm putting them in cages, separating them from their parents. Well, I separated that coyote from his babies.
Oh.
Yeah, it sucks. I didn't like doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't like doing it. I wasn't like, yay. I mean, it's fun to hunt and kill things. That's if you're a man, you just like shooting stuff. But, it's not like it was like I was crying while I was doing it. But I'm saying I'd rather not have to do it. Right. If we didn't have chickens, they wouldn't be over here. But I had to pay for those chickens. I have to pay to feed the chickens. I have to do the physical labor of paying the chickens. Like, okay, you want the coyote to be fed? Let's create a new system then. If the problem is the immigrants are in a country over here that's got problems, let's change the system. Not take them over here, put them over into the one place that if it changes, everybody's fucked.
Yeah.
And then to claim that it's like dictators use fear and so forth. And so it's like, well, actually what you're doing is defining all of the things that you don't agree with as fear and hate.
Yeah.
Because I could say if you promote transgenderism, you hate life. You hate children.
Yeah.
You hate people who actually are just accepting of what they physically are. You hate them. In fact, really think about it.
Dude, that Enoch.
What about the hate towards the Palestinians? Isn't that hate towards them shooting?
There's this whole meme going around. There's this whole meme going around saying never click translate on a Hebrew tweet. Because they're like, it's like if it's about the Palestinians, because it's always like death to these fucking terrorists. I hope all their babies are murdered and shit like that. And you're like, oh fuck. They're like, never click translate on the Hebrew tweets.
Wow.
But it just shows it's like, oh no, they're the special people that are so kind and compassionate. They're just trying to. I love the whole people who are like worshiping Netanyahu, like he's like, no, he's actually the leader who's standing strong and so forth. Like, yeah, I that is true. Like he is standing strong for his people. But hey, when Hitler did it, you said he was a bad person. Like they're doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. No, and what was that one guy? Like, okay, exactly. On that Two Nice Jewish Boys podcast. And the guy
Dude,
was
I was trying
was
so hard to figure
insane.
out, is this satire? Is this parody?
Was it?
I really I couldn't find anything that
I don't
suggested it
think
was. I even went to look
I
at
don't think it
their YouTube channel and looked at different videos, and I'm like, this doesn't seem to be a satire. Like they had actual, Israeli guests and stuff, and like pro Israel and Zionism. I was just like, this can't be real. Like
Dude.
it can't be real.
So just for context for everybody listening, the guy said, like, if there was a button that I could press that would like
Let's just
end
play it,
all-
dude.
Yeah.
Where is it? Do you have it?
It's in
I
our.
probably
it's in
sent
our
It was
it.
way up.
Yeah, you sent it like way up though,
Hold on one sec.
because you sent a lot of fucking shit.
Yeah, because it was like a
I was putting out compost on the garden while I'm
Yeah.
listening to that Noah Harari. So like I kept like stopping to like text like my
yeah.
thoughts about it.
No, that's good. I like that you do that. You know what we should do in the future?
Otherwise I'd
is just,
forget.
we should just take a screenshot of the timestamp. That way we can just play it on the podcast, like this part here, and then comment.
Can you send it to me? I don't know which.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm looking. There's just so many things. I'm probably just scrolling.
It's on X. That's what it was. I am getting close to it. I feel it. So close. Oh,
there's a whole
dude,
clip
that
on YouTube.
Dr. Seuss thing, that was crazy. I just went past that.
I
So,
know. I know.
Dr. Seuss.
He was
Oh,
doing
here we-
pro-war propaganda cartoons before he did the children's books.
Yeah.
It's like,
Okay,
what?
here we go. Here I found it, but I thought it was on X. Maybe it was on YouTube. Okay, here we go.
Oh yeah, you could just play it, huh?
I could. Let me just press it. Is it a short? Oh no, this is a reaction to it. That's why it was on YouTube.
But it was, yeah, Hassan or not Hassan. Anyways, yeah, just
No, I found it. I got it.
okay.
All right, here we go. Share screen. Share sound.
And it's like, oh, the algorithm's
just
only pushing this
erase
because you're
Gaza.
angry.
Every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow. I would press it in a second. That's just, I think most Israelis
If
probably
that's the
agree.
choice, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, even if it's not like right now,
Yeah, no.
I would press it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and same with the territories.
Give me that button and press it right now.
There you go.
And I think most Israelis would.
Yeah, most Jewish
They wouldn't.
Israelis.
They wouldn't post. They wouldn't talk about it like I am.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't post. They wouldn't say I pressed it, but they would press it. Right? Like if they were in a
Yeah.
closet alone, they would. They wouldn't even hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
Someone came to them and Hadar said, "No one will know. You press this, all the Palestinians are gone." You'd be like, "Fucking hey, is there another one?" If you gave me a button,
The crazy thing is, he says, like, even if it wasn't right now, right? Even if it wasn't right now that all this stuff was going on, I would just press it anyway. Like he's just got like a hate for the Palestinians.
At first, it's like maybe he's just saying that's what Israelis would do and they won't tell you. But then he's like, yeah, I think they would do it too. Like he's saying,
Yeah.
I'm not judging the guy. I'm just saying, how is
I'm
that
just
not
saying-
hate? How is
How is
that
that-
not hate?
How is that not a Holocaust? How is that not like the exact
Literally.
same? That's what I'm.
How is that not, if you switched it to a German guy back in the 1940s saying like, if we could just put them in the camp and push the button right now, like how is it fundamentally any different
Right.
at all?
Right.
Like there's children there who literally were just born, who are just innocent children, don't know anything. And they're like, well, they're going to grow up to be terrorists. Couldn't Hitler have made that same argument? Isn't that the argument he was making? In fact, remember that Joe Rogan clip where Joe Rogan's like, have you seen these AI translations of Hitler's speeches?
Yeah.
And like, he's not saying what you thought he was going to say. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah. Dude,
This
yeah.
is what Harari doesn't like, is that the technology actually is enabling us to see what everyone's actually saying.
That's it. That's it. and so he's basically saying like, oh, you can't promote these things. Like if somebody says it, it's fine for them to say, but you can't let that get out and let other people see. So I think
He's like
ba-
saying it like as in there's one person in a dark corner who's anti-Semitic, for example, who is saying some things, and then the algorithm, because they know it's going to make everyone angry, just gives it to everybody, and then suddenly there's all this anti-Semitism, and it's like, but if what the person said didn't make sense, nobody would listen to it.
right.
That's the problem. Maybe it still can be false.
I mean, okay. Hear me out on this, because I think if there was something that was like, World Star, you guys know World Star, right? It's like, it's just a fucking bunch of fights, right? When that first came out, I was addicted to that shit. Like, you show me a fight like online on the internet, like, oh, what happened here? I don't even need to hear the story, but just like someone's getting walloped on, right? But then after like, I don't know, a few of those videos, it's like, okay, I get it. Like people are fighting on people fight everywhere. I get it. Cool. What next? Like I'm not interested in that really, right? But what you're saying, what I'm trying to make the point of is, yeah, okay, to an extent, people want to see other people fighting. The conflict is there's something to that. But when it's somebody just talking and they're talking about like, hey, is something shitty in your life too? Could this potentially be the reason for that?
But let's say that is what people want to see.
Mhm.
Is that the algorithm artificially giving them something?
No.
Or is it responding to what they want to see?
Yeah.
And isn't that the problem? Is that what they want to see?
Yeah.
Or they want to
What
see a
he-
video of how
what-
Jesus
but-
against the other day or whatever.
But what he's saying the solution is people should not be allowed to see what makes them actually want to watch more. They should only be told what the institutions think they should hear and see. Because otherwise, how does the company determine what people should see or not? Well,
Yeah.
okay, maybe it's okay if you want to see it, but you shouldn't be able to see certain things. So then you are going to censor people, or you're going to say the algorithms shouldn't promote certain people. So now that is censoring them.
Yeah.
Because you're saying a bunch of people want to hear what this person has to say, maybe not because they even know the person, but because they would be interested in the things that person is saying. They're like, well, no, but those are things that shouldn't be, people should not be impulsed with that. And I understand the point of not impulsing people. Like with our kids, we're very careful about what we impulse them with.
Yeah.
But that is the point, is the institutions are like the parent and the children. It's like adults. The thing is, I understand the reality is people are very dumb. They are very uneducated, and they can't discern what is true and what's not true.
That's what
But
Harari knows that too, deep down, and that's why he's accepted his view. But that's where we're different, because we
But
see
his point is that people should be having a conversation, shouldn't be influenced by the algorithms. And it's like, well, you see, it's this whole thing. It's like, it's not that he's wrong about the points. He's really good at saying what the problem is. But his solution is actually just, let's go back to the past, to where we trusted the institutions, to where the kings and the queens and the newspapers and
let the media company tell you what you can think, because he's not worried about he says this other thing of like, Facebook should be
who controls all those media companies.
Yeah, right.
That's what you got to think about.
But he's like, Facebook's not going and checking and making sure that. He says, oh, but like, even when there was something true with the Hunter Biden laptop story, and then you have the FBI telling you it's not true, what do you do there? He's like, it's difficult. It's difficult. But the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and this is like, wait,
what about for 4 years? What about for 4 years them telling us Trump was a Russian agent?
It was lies.
All of them lied. All of them said it.
And held accountable. There was none of this bullshit that you were saying of like, oh, but they should be held accountable and they should be fined for that, or we should remove them from their position. No bullshit. You didn't say any of that shit. It's literally just what we say That's what
See, the problem is what he's not saying is that the institutions are captured.
right.
And he knows there's a point where we do trust those. And it's like, well, we can't trust all these average idiots on the internet. So we should go back to at least trusting these institutions. It's like they're captured. That's why you want to go. He's not saying everyone needs to develop the ability to trust themselves and see what is true and what is not true. Notice he's not saying that at all.
And the whole time he's like, oh, in the beginning, remember what he said? It's a conversation. But who the fuck do you want me to have this conversation with? Not the average person, obviously. You want me to have the conversation with the fucking institution and let them tell me what to do. You know, it's a
because you know what I do when I see something online and I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. I immediately try to figure out, is it true or not?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you know what I want to do? I want to share it with you and Mitch and like with other friends and people and I'm like, oh, I want to share this, but hold on, let me make sure that what I'm sharing.
Yeah, let me make sure I don't
is
look like a
not-
dumbass.
Right, exactly. Like I don't want to be like this total fucking idiot. Yeah. So okay, look at okay, now going back to Eric Weinstein, because he also brings up the Mark Benz. Is that his name? Mark Benz?
Yeah, Marker. Yeah, I think so.
Something
Yeah.
Benz.
Anyways, yeah.
But he brings up that conversation of him talking about the institutions. They basically they're promoting their version of reality and they want you to just accept that and believe that. And their problem is that we have these other channels. We have Telegram. We have, you know, the ability to communicate one-on-one directly with one another, and they don't like that shit because then you get all this like other conversation of like, hey, wait a minute, did did that make sense to you when the king said that? The king said that like he was ordained by God. Like that didn't make sense to you either, right? Like, okay, it wasn't just me. Okay, because I thought it was just me, and then I was like, ah, shit, maybe I don't believe in the king or God or something. But no, you felt that too. Like it was really stupid when he said that. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, can we get rid of this king? That's what they don't want. That's exactly what they don't want. And so
Here, let me play this real quick. This might be good. It's not the point we're trying to make, but I think it might be good.
okay. There was a lot of good in that conversation.
Now, this gets back to what we were talking about with the State Department's Global Engagement Center. You had this group within the Atlantic Council and the foreign policy establishment, which began arguing in 2017 for the need for a permanent domestic censorship government office to serve as a quarterback for what they called a whole of society counter misinformation, counter disinformation alliance. That just means censorship, the counter misdisinfo. But their whole society model explicitly proposed that we need every single asset within society.
What happened to the sound?
I don't know.
Did it go off on your side too?
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Okay.
He got censored.
He got
I'm trying to find.
He brought it on himself.
He said it so well, that part where he said, it was in the Tucker interview where he explains how the word democracy has been redefined. Like, okay, it's exactly like racism.
Yeah.
It was redefined. It was just
Dude.
more explicitly redefined,
Dude.
It's like if you look at what's the ADL definition of racism? ADL definition.
Hang on. Do you remember that guy, the rabbi that Candace debated? Not Shmuley recently, but the other one, way back when, right? And he was saying you're anti-Semitic, right? And she was like, okay, well, what does that mean? What is anti-Semitism? And he said it changes. It's not just anti-Semitism, the definition that changes. It's literally any word they want. They just change the definition. And by they, I mean like the system. Like, because it knows you already have a feeling associated with the words. And then it's like, okay, now I'm just going to change the definition of that word. And you're still going to go along with it. So racism, anti-Semitism, what's the other one? Democracy, woman, that all these words are now changed. They don't mean what they used to mean, but you still go along with it as if it did mean what you thought it meant in the past. It still gives you that same feeling. So whenever somebody says you're a racist or you're anti-woman because you're against or you speak out against transgenderism, it's like, yeah, all that stuff is now considered well, you still get the same feeling towards it of like, oh man, I'm a bad person because I was being racist and I didn't realize it. I'm being anti-Semitic and I didn't realize. That's why all these poor women. Remember that Matt Walsh thing you sent long ago? Now it's like 2 weeks ago, but long ago, of him going to that dinner, and then all the women being like getting them to toast like to racism, like to basically be like, yeah, I'm a racist, and they're all toasting, right? The reason why they would all accept that, because they wouldn't, none of those people, I assure you, none of those people, when they were younger, would have said, I'm a racist. They don't want to be racist. Some definition has changed, and they've been basically convinced that they've been being racist this whole time. And now they're like, oh, I'm a racist. And to the point where they can toast to like, I'm a racist. And me admitting this is a good thing. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? That is weird as shit. That is so weird as shit. But it's the exact same thing that our media is doing, where it's like getting you to agree to some bullshit you would never agree to, actually, because it knows that the way that you've defined words, the way that you've defined your reality is based on emotions and feelings, first of all, but it's held in place by these institutions, which are your characters, which are your personalities, which are your emotions and feelings, which you've given up your trust and you've abdicated your direction to, your ability to move through this world has been abdicated to these things which you put your trust in, because it's worked for so long, but it's not actually working for you. You know it's not actually working. You know? And so anyway, going back to that Eric Weinstein, is it Weinstein or Weinstein? Anyway.
Weinstein.
Okay. Even though it's
I don't
EIN for both of them.
I don't know.
Epstein or
But I thought it was
Epstein?
brilliant. I thought the whole fucking interview was, I mean, obviously it doesn't have real solutions, but I thought their level of vocabulary and the ideas exchange were really helpful to see.
Yeah. What did you see as far as like something that was like an exchange that was helpful?
I think the first one was it gave good context on why you can see some mainstream shit that's just like so obvious to us to be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why? For example, Trump has given, I don't know, he does 2 interviews a day for the past years, right? Kamala has done one with Tim Walz on CNN and is like totally doctored.
Yeah.
And the average person goes, what the fuck? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to make sense, is the point. They're instructing you into how to act if you want to keep your job, keep your social standing, and all that. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
That is a really good point. That is a good point, because he says in there, he's like, they're letting you know, if you challenge this point, you're going to have a problem with the family for Thanksgiving dinner. You're going to have a problem with this person, with, you know, as you run it. And I see that on my Facebook, like people I actually know are posting like people I've met in person are posting like Kamala shit, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I look at the comments on their post or whatever, and it'll be like Kamala wearing some like some dress, like it's an AI image of her as like the Statue of Liberty, right? And the caption is like, in Europe, they're talking about is Kamala. And like somebody posted in the comments like, I'm in Europe right now. Nobody's talking about Kamala. Not in this way. Not in the way that you're thinking. Right? And it was so interesting because they're saying in there, oh yeah, that's a great quote. That's a great quote. No, that's a great quote though. It goes with what I'm saying. But the people in the comments are like, oh my gosh, some of the friends that you have, I can't believe. Yeah, I had to go delete some people. And like the person who made the original post, like I had to delete some people based on, you know, their comments here. And I'm like, wow. So it's legitimately like somebody who's completely bought into the system is like this is how they're going to respond because they're seeing all this media and they're like, this is how, yes, I accept. So anybody who challenges it and is like, wait a minute, where the fuck is your brain? Oh, you're a hateful person. Hate. Stay away.
It's like that whole if you ask somebody like what policy positions do you like from Kamala, they'll be like, oh, I don't know. Why are you voting for her? Because she's black.
She's a woman.
She's a black woman.
Black
Like,
woman.
And they can't fathom the alternative.
Did I send you that meme where it's I think I sent it to Katie where it's like a soldier dropping like a grenade. And it's
I think we
like
sent it in the chat just here.
And it was something like Kamala.
It was like boomers.
Oh yeah, that show is funny.
Oh, it was boomers dropping
one final fuck you.
Yeah, the grenade says voting Kamala as one final fuck you to their kids. Like the guy dropping it's the boomers.
So I saw this
literally, dude, what she fucking represents.
I saw this like I don't know how you would call this show. They used to do these shows a lot in the 90s, but it would be a show where the host goes into the audience basically, and they're like interviewing people within the audience, and they like specifically set up people in the audience to have this sort of conversation, right? And this show was taking place in Australia. It just got randomly promoted to me on YouTube, and I was like, this is interesting. But it was a bunch of boomers they were interviewing, and they were asking them, how'd you make your money? How'd you get your start? And then there's some kids in the audience as well, not kids, but like young adults. And like, do you think it was fair the way that you made your money? How much money do you have now, etc.? And like one of the women that was being interviewed, she was saying she bought her first house at 20 something. It was like 30 grand. And she was able to go to work while learning a nursing, like while going to school for nursing. She was able to work in her field and earn as if she had the nursing degree or whatever it was already, because at that time that's how it worked. And she was able to save up enough to buy her first home for like 30 grand. And she just saved up, and then she just kept doing that, and she bought another home and another one, and eventually she built her portfolio. And okay, how much is that house worth now? It's like $3 million. And she's like everything was just like, what? I was listening to it, I'm like, that's impossible today. All of that is impossible today.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you think like the way that you made money was fair? Do you think, that other people have the same opportunities today? And like the boomers were all just like, and they interviewed a bunch of boomers there, and they were all just like, yeah, no, it was fair. It was hard work. And, people just don't value hard work the way that we did then. It's like, what? And then they were interviewing some of the young people, and they were like, do you have a house or whatever? And some of them were like, yeah. My parents helped me buy my first house, or they sold it to me. They sold me one of their properties at a really, below market value and all that. And they're like, do you think you'd be able to buy a house without their help? And some of them were like, well, I could. And others are like, no way, no fucking way. Like, and the parents were also, some of the parents were like, the boomer parents were like, oh, well, we're part of this club where we just go and try to spend as much money as possible. We just did this trip to Singapore and this trip over here. And they're like, how much do you spend on those trips? Like, 6 to 12 grand. Like, and they're like literally taking a trip every 2 weeks or so. And they're like, wow, I'm starting to think it's a surprise that we even got you on the show. And they're like, yeah, no, we're heading out in the next 2 weeks. They're like, fuck. And it was just so interesting because the disconnect there, I was just like, they were asking these pertinent questions of like, do you see it as like you're spending your children's inheritance money? And like, no, we worked hard for it. We think we deserve to spend it. It's like, wow, like it just complete. And we were kind of bringing this up a little bit earlier. I'm not going to say the full point, but just the point of like, there are certain groups of people, like the elite, they see their investments as like a generation after generation after generation. They're thinking hundreds, if not, more than hundreds of years into the future of their legacy, of what they're building. And they're thinking like, and I'm gonna pass this down to like what was that family? I forget which family this was, but there was a specific family, and a lot of elites have this story. That's why I forget. But there was a specific family, and I remember Avery had sent it of like, they basically every time that they'd build a bank or they'd do this or whatever, then they would pass it down to one of their sons. And if it wasn't like their specific son, that like the first son, then they were like, okay, now the second son, you got a chance to come in here, and now it follows your line. Or okay, you know, the second son, the first son didn't have kids, so it goes. I have to promote the second son, you know, and like they just kept it completely in the family, and this is how they do it, you know, and they're not thinking, oh, I'm just gonna splurge all my money. Like they're legitimately like, this stays in the family forever. You are going to be raised to fucking do this business, whether you fucking like it or not. And it's like, it's going down to one of you. And if he can't do it, you're fucking stepping up to the plate. Like that's basically how they see their money. And I'm not saying that's best. I'm just saying it's a completely different mindset of, like I know for myself, everything that I have, I'm building it for my children. So that they have the greatest opportunity to actually make a difference, and not just make a difference, but like make the world best. Like that is what we're here to do. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah,
That's
but you also
I'm
know, like, if I just focus on me and my investments and everything, it's like that's never going to work. Like you said, that doesn't exist anymore. You're not even in that club anyways. And I think the bigger point is not like, we're not saying this, but I'm just saying for anybody who's wondering, it's like, it's not about blaming a particular group. It's just realizing everyone's just going along with everything and allowing this particular group to do what they're doing, the elite. It's not that, oh, if we suddenly everyone realizes it, then we'll stop them. It's like, no, if everyone was taking full self-responsibility and we stood up and changed the system, that stuff wouldn't happen. And then everyone would have what they need. Check this out. I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but like when Jesus is in the desert.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And Satan's tempting him, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and he says, the devil took him up on an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their glory. And he said to him, all these things I will give you if you will fall down and worship me. That's what I thought of when you were talking about the boomers being like, we worked hard and we did this. And it's like, yeah, you just fucking bought into the whole system to go to the next fucking level. And you didn't give a shit what they did to Kennedy. You didn't give a shit, you know, what the hippies did. You didn't give a shit of Vietnam, fucking all this stuff. Check this out. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command.
Yeah.
In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. Like, boys can be girls. It was inevitable that they should make the claim sooner or later. The logic of their position demanded it. Not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy.
At least on his end, it'll still be recording as normal. Okay, there you go.
Sorry. I was just reading this.
No, it'll go on the recording fine, I think.
Yeah, not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy. The heresy of heresies was common sense. And what was terrifying was not that they would kill you for thinking otherwise, but that they might be right. For after all, how do we know that 2 and 2 make 4? Or that the force of gravity works? Or that the past is unchangeable? If both the past and the external world exist only in the mind, and if the mind itself is controllable, what then? Right? And I think maybe we can play, I know we got limited time, but I was thinking we could play a little bit of this point because I think this is the most salient part of this interview.
Go ahead.
Let me put it on faster speed.
Problems. And my problem is I keep solve somebody's own problem. That's why I keep ending up in all these places.
Can I teach you about Milgram questions?
Tell me about Milgram questions.
This is
Stanley Milgram?
An idea from Jay Sanilak. So what makes a woman attractive is a Milgram question. In other words, the social penalty for an unflattering answer is much higher than the reward for telling the truth. Because of this, we simply can't trust the answers we receive, even if they're coming from friends. The best known trick question is, when did you stop beating your wife? Any conventional answer to the question confirms its assumption. To escape the trap, you need to call out the question. This type of question isn't that common in practice, it's really just a rhetorical gimmick. The most important and most common type of trick question sounds more like, do you love Big Brother? It's a question where an unacceptable answer, regardless of whether it's true or false, will be punished, and the punishment is greater than the reward for the true answer. I'm going to recall these Milgram questions after the famous psychology experiment where electric shocks were administered for wrong answers. And there's a associated idea called the chilling effect. When punishment for what people say becomes widespread, people stop saying what they really think and instead say whatever is needed to thrive.
That's closer to the Ash experiment. Yeah.
Thus, limits on speech become limits on sincerity.
It's an interesting problem. Tell me about why you brought it up and what you find interesting about it.
It is one way that explains how a group of people from the outside can look coordinated, but it's actually a common trend, a common motivation.
See, he doesn't want to say it's coordinated.
Oh yeah, he's afraid to say anything.
But this is an example of what he was just talking about. Because it's not acceptable to say that.
Which is coordinated.
Working below the
That's
surface
well-
that motivates them all to behave in a way that appears coordinated from the outside. From the inside, it just looks like perhaps cowardice, perhaps compliance.
So, yeah, I've been very interested in these sorts of issues. I try to tell people why the truth can't work. And people are always confused by this. I say, okay, tell me I have mildly bad breath. And some people will say, you have mildly bad breath. And I say, well, you just told me that my breath is so horrendous that you were willing to cross a social chasm that essentially no one ever crosses to tell me that I have mildly bad breath. So obviously my breath must be as bad as a sewer. Then they say, would you like a stick of gum? And I say, sure. And I'd show no cognition that you've actually told me about. You can't transmit that piece of information easily. It's very akin to this. Yes, now our society hinges on these things. On the other hand, there are ways of getting at these questions through language. So, for example, you're not allowed to say that you like cleavage, but you are allowed to say that was an incredibly dramatic neckline, right? And so why is it that one phrase is penalized? It's because there's a Russell conjugation that works and a Russell conjugation that doesn't.
He sweats, she perspires, they glow.
Right. And so in such circumstances, the key question is how you are allowed to discuss the truth as well as whether you are allowed to discuss the truth. Many times there's a penalty for not being skilled. The skilled person is allowed to say something.
Deftly, with the appropriate nuance, with appropriate social graces.
Yeah, but and then the question becomes, why can't you say
Wait, this isn't the right one, is it?
No,
this is an old interview, but it's still.
That's not the one I'm looking for. Hold on, let
No,
me go
not
back.
at all.
No, you're
But
looking
you
at
know
it.
that good part.
But there's a very specific point I'm trying to do. Sorry, because it's talked about string theory, so I assumed.
Oh, dude, we
got
got to talk about the strength here. I think that shit was crazy.
Do you know what the part I'm talking about, Drake? Where he
I
talks
have
about.
no fucking clue what you're trying to say.
Wait,
Hold
wait,
on.
wait,
Let me tell you. The part where he's talking about this, you have to go more than one layer of questioning things.
Oh yeah, that I mean,
Maybe it's just this part right here.
Yeah, maybe that's part.
That's what I was thinking. I was playing because it said like why we can't ask certain questions. Let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, sorry guys.
That was good too.
I know, but that's not really the point I was trying to do.
I've been trying to find this term for a while that I'd learned through film critics online. Critical Drinker is a sweary Scottish film critic. And retroactive continuity.
Retcon.
Yeah, but I didn't know what retroactive continuity. I didn't know that that's what retconning. I just knew it as retcon. So, retroactive continuity is a literary device in which facts in the world of a fictional work that have been established through the narrative itself are adjusted, ignored, supplemented, or contradicted by subsequently published work that recontextualizes or breaks continuity with the former. So the question is what we're seeing just the Star Wars cinematic universe?
Yeah.
Equivalent.
Yeah, this is Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty, where
falls off a ledge,
and yet here he is again.
It's every episode of South Park when Kenny's died.
So
it's the Matrix 4.
It's very important to understand the back of house in everything that you're doing. So
Yes.
when you go to a hotel, there's an entirely secondary structure of floors, elevators, entrances, cafes that are necessary to support the front of house, which is the illusion of the hotel that you're staying in. And the same thing is true for screenwriting and the creative arts. I think everyone should, for example, read Save the Cat. It's a book on screenwriting that points out that films aren't broken into scenes so much as they're broken into beats. There are about 40 beats in a film, and the beats have names. And so if you read this book, one is called The Bad Guys Close In, and another beat is called All Hope is Lost. And these are mainstays, and you're programmed client side at a subliminal level to be able to follow a film based on the idea that your brain is already tooled to absorb this stuff. There's a concept called spackle in Hollywood, where it costs a couple of lines to make something that makes no sense make sense. I think it's referenced in Thank You for Smoking, where they're smoking in space and there's an issue with product placement. How does it make sense to have cigarette smoking in space after sex? And whatever. Oh, it'll cost us 2 lines of spackle. And so every once in a while,
hold on, Cam. You got to go back. It just cut out. Go back to the word spackle, where it first was introduced.
Spackle. I'll just say what it is. Spackle just means you have to explain why something doesn't make sense. So it costs you a couple lines to like make the sense of it. It's like when you cover up a blemish on your wall or something, basically, right? So spackle is just like a way of explaining why what you said, that you just said, like he said, to use example of space, right? They're in this movie, they're having sex, they're smoking a cigarette in space, and they're trying to explain why that made sense. Okay, so it's just a way of covering up something that doesn't make sense.
Pokes through. And so this is retcon is a back of house concept. And the issue, again, really comes back to professional wrestling. The smark is a smart mark, a person who is being duped and agrees to be duped, but has a metacognitive perch from which to watch his or her own deception. So you're both a consumer of the story. Like when you go to a movie, you know it's fictional. You don't sit there saying this is such BS. You know, the old thing I used to say is you don't scream, don't you understand? It's just photons projected on a wall.
This is why I'm always like, when somebody on the news is saying something stupid and you're like, why are they? And it's like, they're lying. They're saying it on purpose because they're trying to brainwash you. Like, it's like, can't get mad at them. Like, I can't believe Piers Morgan doesn't understand. It's like, he probably doesn't think what he's saying.
We are complicit in our own deception. Otherwise, we'll never be seduced. And there's nothing more wonderful than a seduction to which we are willing and eager. This is an unwanted seduction. This is coercive. This is based on a lot of carrot being taken away, and more or less all of what you have is stick.
It's strange in a world where everything that everybody does and says on the internet is permanently recorded on some version of a blockchain that's kept in screenshots, even if it then gets deleted from Twitter. It just seems odd to me that there is so much retconning of this. You spoke about managed reality last time. A good example, a nice simple example of this is Kamala Harris was never called the border czar. Like they went back and changed the old articles from 3 years ago.
Yep.
Here's my question. When did you wake up to this? Because in my situation, Peter Thiel, who I used to work for, said this to me. He's like, Eric, how did you get there earlier? And I said, well, I was in the university system. And academics has a faster glide path into the ground than everything else. You could see it there in the 1980s.
I don't know. I think it has taken a little bit of time. Maybe moving to America, seeing these things closer up has been part of it. I have a strong non-conspiratorial disposition, so I will always attribute to incompetence or negligence or fear of losing your job, cowardice.
You're running the packet. There's the lefty enervation packet, and it's something that you're sort of obligated to run if you're going to be a member in good standing of the American left. So one part of it would say that correlation does not imply causation. Data is not the plural of anecdote. Never explain by malice what can be understood through incompetence. There's a large sequence of things that you're expected to say if you want the pat on the back from your colleagues. A random walk down Wall Street. Nobody can beat the market. You know that there are rich people 3 doors down who got that way from investing, but they're simply lucky idiots. All of these things you're expected to run if you're part of the expert class, so that the expert class doesn't turn on their masters. And what it is, you see, I was about to do the double copula. I always do that. What it is, in my opinion, I'm going to have to do it. I can't get out of it. What it is a collection of safeties so that you don't use the tools of data, let's say, on your masters and attempt to convict them.
Give an example.
For example, let's imagine that you have a high number of deaths around a vaccine or injuries. That could lead to questions about under what legal regime the vaccine manufacturers achieved immunity. And so you say, oh, no, that's just correlation does not imply causation. Of course, there are going to be runs in poker. Of course, there are going to be clusters of data. This is what being fooled by randomness is all about. So if you think about what those things, how they function inside of your mind, they tend to keep you from seeking remedies. You're not going to put somebody in jail if you believe all these things. You're not going to go poking into the intelligence community. If a conspiracy theorist makes you think about a lunatic, you're not a lunatic, you're a grown-up. It's first order sophistication. Do you ever see a film called Victor Victoria?
No.
That's it.
Victor Victoria is I think the tagline on the poster was the story of a woman playing a man playing a woman. And so it was a female impersonator who was actually Julie Andrews.
Right.
Right. Now, if you saw Victor behind Victoria, you certainly saw one level deep. That's one level of counterintuition. And most people, when they get to one level of counterintuition, stop, pat themselves on the back, and at least they're not like the poor fools who only see Victoria, because Victoria, is the female being impersonated. But what happens if you see Sally? And let's imagine Sally is the person playing Victor, playing Victoria. Now you've got a problem, which is you say, that's a woman. So everybody who sees Victor says, you poor bastard, you are fooled. And Reddit is great for this, by the way. The average Reddit post is, I see through that thing that you're taken in by, but have fun with it. It's a superiority contest at first order counterintuition. So at first order counterintuition, conspiracy theorists are losers in their mother's basements who posit a new world order where the flat earth society of lizard people controls the cosmos. And the funny part about it is the Atlantic Council exists.
What's that?
But that would be Sally playing Victor, playing Victoria. I mean, in other words, of course, there are conspiracies everywhere. We found a million conspiracies. I could tell you, various operations, Operation Condor, Operation Sea Spray, where we sprayed bacteria on all of San Francisco. We all know about the Tuskegee Medical Experiment, Operation Northwoods, Operation Mockingbird, Operation Ajax in Chile. We know that conspiracies are the lifeblood of the world. Every trade group is a conspiracy. The Twitter files are about conspiracy. So we're living in a world, hopefully you've achieved a point in your life where you've been invited to many conspiracies. And if you haven't, I'm really sorry, but they're everywhere. Now, what is a conspiracy theorist? It's somebody trying to figure out what these things are from outside. That's what you've got to stop. And how do you do this? Well, there are a lot of bad conspiracy theorists. There are a lot of losers and a lot of morons and a lot of idiots who imagine that lizard people are controlling everything. And so you try to make it look like the people who, well, let me give you an example. The moon landing and the JFK assassination are not in the same category. It's quite probable that something funny is going on around the JFK assassination, and it's highly improbable that the moon landings are fake. TWA Flight 800 seems very strange, or what is like 300 missing man pads from the Afghan theater. A bunch of people saw something streaking up to a plane, and the explanation doesn't exactly add up. Now you have a problem. Like the famous one that I like, which is just so dangerous. It's funny. You can just watch the radioactivity. If you can agree that nothing like Building 7's collapse has ever happened in structural engineering, you can say, well, that is interesting. It's just interesting that no building has ever collapsed like that. No steel building of this height, from flame, whatever. And the instant you say that, some member of a group of 10 friends will say, oh yeah, I bet it was a bunch of thermite placed by Israelis, right, Einstein? And you're thinking, wow, gosh, that seems like a really high penalty to pay for just noticing no building has ever collapsed like that. I'm not saying, I don't believe that.
So it's this kind of pattern match of any type of skepticism with a slippery slope down to the most extreme conspiracy.
And yeah, you're just in error.
Is that really extreme?
You took first order counterintuition so that you became superior to the Flat Earth Society, but you're not the guy who's going to figure out the Iran-Contra scandal. Because if I told you the Iran-Contra scandal, it doesn't matter how many documents you look at, you'll still never believe that was true. It's so insane.
This retconning, this mass lighting, gaslighting at global scale, it is mind-blowing to me that this is done on the internet when everything is held together.
Why?
Because the entire internet is obsessed with pointing out hypocrisy.
No. It's not the entire internet.
A large portion, a very vocal.
A large portion of very small accounts, a large portion of right-of-center accounts. Almost no one in what I considered my world does anything remotely like this. In other words, if you walk into a physics department, good luck finding a Republican. And good luck finding anybody who will believe almost anything that you tell them or will do so publicly. I took a tour through the East Coast, the corridor of great universities, from Massachusetts down to Philadelphia.
Okay. And, I don't have to keep going on this, but there's so much in there. Like, yeah. What was the point you were saying about string theory, Mitch?
Oh, just, well, I think he opens it up here. He talks about how there's like all laws in place where if you study certain branches of physics, it like starts to get into like national defense, right? Because if you figure something out, it could be used to like create nuclear warheads or whatever. So then this whole idea that string theory was put forth as like an intentional false theory or like somewhat misleading to then distract all the brain power towards that. So it's like, wow.
Yeah, and then I was saying that three body problem. Sorry for the spoiler, everybody, but that's kind of like what the aliens do to the Earth is they, in a way, fuck with physics, so they can't develop the physics enough that when the aliens arrive, they'll be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So, and if you go back and listen to Trump's speech, when he was inaugurated, he said, we have all these technologies that we want to release, right? But they're literally being held back. And why? Because the decisions are not made as what's best for all. It's made based on what you can profit. And if you give everybody abundance and you give everyone access to that, then you can't profit from it. And this is the major problem, right? That we are. And the thing is, what he said too early in that interview just now is like, it's a willing self-deception. So every day that we would spend focusing on our own self-interest, thinking like, oh, I'll just survive one more day and I'm not going to change the system. I'm not going to change myself. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to share with other people and support them to see like what's going on. Is just, that's the self-deception. It's like, you're allowing this point to continue. Hold on, Katie sent me something.
It's interesting to consider like, okay, if you could have all your needs met, be really happy and oh shit, really?
What?
we don't have that much time.
We have
I know. Okay, here's the thing. Let me play this one other thing real quick, then, since we don't have much time. And this will be a good way to end it. Okay.
I would, for everyone, I would recommend listen to the Yuval Harari one and the Eric Weinstein one. Both.
Yeah.
They should be on the list. Okay, we'll round it out with this nice little.
Then you'll realize why having technical tutors so one of the many reasons so helpful, because you can actually just hear it once. You're like, wow.
So you don't get lost in the first order counterintuition,
right.
And you don't become a fucking conspiracy theorist.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna stand on the street corner and tell about flat Earth, and if everyone knew there was a flat Earth, we'd know there was abundance. So like, there's obviously abundance. Look the fuck around.
Yeah.
But the people who run the world want us to go to Mars. All right, we'll end it out with this, and then I'll see you guys on the next meeting. I thought this was fucking awesome. This is so good.
So you know how those lids are, because this is, I'm just gonna speak, okay? So this is it. So you know how those lids on the Starbucks cups, they're white, right? And so if you wear lipstick, they get all over the lid. And so then I find myself in meetings if I'm the only woman, and that's kind of it. So I keep taking the lid off and having my cup out so that I don't have that big lipstick mark on the lid. So I said, can we do something about the color of the lid? So that was that conversation.
You see, it was a whole story to be like how she's the only woman in the room.
Yeah.
Maybe the problem isn't the color of the Starbucks coffee cups. Maybe if there was only men, there wouldn't be a problem. Hey, back when we actually had a democracy in the US, remember, because Noah Yuval, he said it's only a relatively new thing when you consider who's allowed to vote.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but also isn't that the point whenever the whole thing started to fucking unravel and not work anymore because it was way easier to fucking manipulate? Because it wasn't just like a bunch of farmers who were like, you can't sell me fucking shit, boy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I can see that horse only got 3 legs, damn it. Like,
Right,
you can't
right.
sell me that. And but the woman would go, but honey, look at the poor thing.
Yeah. Right.
Come on. Do you see? Like, now, that being said, does that mean women shouldn't vote? No, it means we need to fucking educate everybody, and everyone has to walk the process, men and women, of taking direction and responsibility for what you accept and allow, and not making decisions based on emotion, and not having a population that's so dumbed down and can't process information that it's easy for those who have high verbal acuity to manipulate everybody with language, which is what ChatGPT is good at. All right. I guess that's it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. All right. Bye, everyone.